behind you. It's also tough because I feel like it changes relationships too, you know? Like it's so hot. Somebody could live so close. But the test of love is which one's leaving their apartment. Yeah, you know? Some you'll live next to somebody a 15-minute walk away, but it'll be like, I could die. I can't be doing that just out willy-nilly just so you to see me. We can FaceTime, all right? Like, I feel like even the way people are sexting must be different, you know? You're just texting somebody, middle of the day, like, hey, I got that AC. Oh no, it's not a window unit, babe. We doing central over here. Now come through and get chilly, baby. It's like weirdly still sexual, but it's all cooling related. Like, I got popsicles. If you're feeling freaky, we could both just sit in front of the open fridge door. No, I was in Philly last weekend and it was so hot. It was in the 90s and it was so hot it made me want to be like a scammer. Like I wanted to just start going to like Zillow open houses. Places I have no intention on putting an offer down on, just to stand to the AC, be like, oh, 2.5 bath, okay. And we actually have a beautiful patio outside. No, I believe you. I can see it. I can see it through the door. I can see it. No, don't do that. Oh. Sometimes someone that you love very, very much, right? Someone you care about deeply comes to you with a problem, and this problem is something like weighing heavily on them, right? It's taking up all their mental space or anything, and you love this person, right? And they come to you and they're telling you their problem, they're trusting you with whatever it is, and while they're telling you their problem, you realize that it's boring. Don't do that. Don't be good people right now. We've all had somebody come to us, a brother, a sister, an aunt, someone has come to us, and you, as they're telling you their problem, you're like, I don't give a shit about any of this. Like, why are they even telling me? I can't even help. What are they doing? This is ruining my Saturday. So sometimes someone that you love very, very much, deeply, comes to you with something serious to them that's a real problem, and it's boring. But somehow, overhearing a stranger's problem is always fascinating. I'll give you some examples. So a couple weeks ago, I was on the bus because life ain't going the way you think, right? And so I was on the bus, you know, the people's limousine, right? And I was on the bus and I was holding the rail, and another guy next to me was holding the rail, but he had his phone like this, right? Like tucked into his arm. And he was just like, I don't know what to do, all right? I do not know what to do. She keep fucking dudes off Facebook Marketplace. Yes. I'm in. Tell me all. Because this man's on his phone like, I can't even trust her to go get a lamp. couple days later, I was also on the bus, because once again, life could be better, right? We'll get there, but until then, community Uber, right? And as I got on, I sat down next to this guy. Now, this guy is being louder, out loud, than my AirPods can get in my ear. So I don't even feel like I'm eavesdropping now. He offering this up to the class, okay? And so he's putting his phone down when I sat down next to him, but he was, calls somebody else. And basically, he calls this next person and tells them that the person he just got off the phone with was a woman who he had been hooking up with, who just called him to tell him that she was pregnant and she was keeping the baby, right? And I don't know the best place, but the bus is one of the worst places to find out you're gonna be a father, all right? The bus is top 3 bad places to find out you're gonna be a daddy, okay? It goes jail, the toilet, the bus, right? And so this man is like, talking on the phone, and then he goes, yeah, it's wild because we didn't even have sex this year. And I was like, oh no. He's gonna be a father. And they kept talking. Now, I can't hear the other person on the other side of the line or anything, but I can just hear the like I can hear that noise is happening, right? And so then they must have asked the question that was on my mind, which was, when was the last time y'all slept together? And it was like, yeah, I haven't even seen her, or like, we haven't hooked up since like August of last year. And I was like, uh-oh. He's not about to be a father. Like, oh. Fellas, we gotta start learning at least a little bit about women's bodies. If nothing else, so we can't get fleeced like this. Like, this is... Because this man said, without stuttering, he was like, yeah, she's about 10 months along, right? I was like... oh. And then they kept talking, they realized he actually did get the math wrong, right? The math was wrong. It was 11 months. And I was like, okay, so when do I step in now as a stranger, right? Like, when do I step up and step in to help? Because I've been missed my stop. I missed my stop. I missed my stop at 10 months, right? And so I'm at least 11 minutes that way, right? And so finally, I leaned over to him. I was like, hey, bro, I couldn't help but hear. We all heard. I couldn't help but hear, and I have good news, I have bad news. The good news is you're not about to be a father. The bad news is you should maybe never be a father. You also overhear wild stuff, like the heat changes people for real. Like there are things people do in the heat that they would not do otherwise. Like I was walking my dog, and in the background, like way down the street on the corner, I heard a little kid get into a fight with the ice cream man. Because once again, I'm walking my dog, and just in the distance I hear, "Nigga, it's a nickel." Even my dog was curious. Like, my dog and I both turned around. And the ice cream man was like, "I don't care what it is, you short, little man." And this kid looked up, I don't know how old he was, looked up at the ice cream man, head can't reach the counter, and goes, "Your dick is short, I want my chocolate." How did we get here? How did these two individuals come together in this moment? Because one, who is this kid? But two, what happens in your life where you become an ice cream man that's really here to nickel and dime these kids? Like, that's really here to like actually buy actual nickels and dimes. Who says to themselves, "You know what, I love passing out joy, but you know who needs to be taken down a peg? These children," okay? I'm trying to figure out what type of friend I am. You know, I think I'm a good friend to a certain degree. I feel like if I discover for myself the type of friend that I am, I'll be a better version of that friend to everybody, all right? Because I'll know my limits, I'll know what I'm willing to do, what I'm not, and everything. And I'm quickly realizing that I am not the advice friend. Don't come to me. Truly, don't come to me at all, because my advice to you will be directly related to how your problem affects me. I'm trying to let everybody know that now, in case, because you know, you never know. Sometimes you meet someone at the show, y'all become friends in real life, and then maybe they have a problem and they come to me, they're like, "Josh, what should I do?" I'm telling you right now, I am not objective. I'm not the one, right? Like, for instance, I have a lot of friends that are getting married this summer into the fall, right? So the big wedding season and everything. And so a couple of my friends have come to me, right? And you just need to know, if you're having troubles are normal, right? People get cold feet, people fight a lot leading up to a wedding, the stress, people's families sometimes don't get along, that stress. You know what I mean? Like, all of it is normal. But if you come to me, my advice to you will be directly correlated to if I already bought the gift. Because I had a friend come to me, his wedding was about, 2 weeks out, he was devastated and everything, and he was a good friend, so I had already bought his gift off the registry. It was a Vitamix 3500, so it was, yes, see, exactly, yes, 100%, yes. And so I'd already got that Vitamix, and anytime a relationship seems shaky, I look up the return policy just in case, and this particular model, they didn't carry anymore, so he comes to me and he's upset and everything, going on, and I'm just looking at the receipt. And so finally, he looking at me to say something. I was like, "Dog, you love her. Like, she your moon, your stars, all that stuff. Like, everybody cheat, okay?" She gonna stop probably, like. I had a different friend come to me, and this friend, the wedding was about what, like 2 days, yeah, like two days out, and my man comes to me, and his problem was very specific, deeply specific. Basically, his fiance and the wedding planner had planned out the whole wedding pretty much top to bottom. They weren't really asking him for much, but then he was offering up. He was like, is there anything that you need me to do that I can take off your plate? And she was like, no, we got it. And he was like, well, there's got to be something, like, I want to be involved somehow. And so then she told him that basically they had everything planned down to a T, but he could pick the placemat at the reception, right? Like the little place that, as long as it was in line with the color theme, he could pick that. And so then my buddy poured over for like several days all these like little different, you couldn't even tell the difference between them, all these different placemats and stuff, and was like trying to make a good decision on the right one and everything. And he finally picked one, and basically it seems like maybe she didn't like it because she had the wedding planner change it last minute, and then they didn't really talk about it. So his feelings were kind of hurt because he was like, oh, that was my one thing, and I took some real pride in doing it, and she didn't say anything to me. And it was a destination wedding, and I hadn't bought my ticket yet. I hadn't bought my ticket, and I hadn't got a gift yet. And so he was telling me about it, and I was like, I wouldn't take that if I was you, dog. Like, for real. Sometimes you gotta put your foot down, all right? I've been watching some of the, like, older people in my life and everything, and it's crazy. My friend, his grandparents were together until his granddad passed away. And his granddad probably passed away at like 85 or something like that. But him and his grandmother got married young. So they were together for like 62 years or something like that. I mean, it's crazy. And people always want to know the sort of secrets to staying together and like having that sort of relationship, that bond. And he said that his grandma basically summed it all up very quickly. She was like, if you want to be with somebody for the rest of your life, you have to know and accept that the first year is lust, the next 10 years are love, and everything else after that is spite. And she said spite without missing a beat. Like she's like, that's a secret ingredient. Like every day you wake up and you're like, we go to war. And basically, she tells this story about how the night that his grandpa passed away, they had this routine where his granddad pretty much wouldn't even sleep in the bed anymore. He would sleep in his chair that could recline, like his lazy boy, and then he would be falling asleep watching TV or something like that. But on that night, he went to bed with his grandma, and he passed away in his sleep. Which is how a lot of people want to go. It's very peaceful, next to somebody you love. And then he wasn't there, but his mom was. And his mom said that when she woke up, she was getting ready and like making breakfast and stuff. And she heard his grandma from the room. And what she heard wasn't like some blood curdling scream or some like cry out or anything. She said she just heard, oh! What? Ooh. And she apparently even said at the funeral that, you know, so many people were coming up to her and telling her how sweet it was that he went to make sure he was laying in bed with her the night that he passed instead of like in his chair or something. And she was like, ain't nothing sweet about it. He did that on purpose. He knew. No, he knew he was gonna die that night. And he wanted to put his cold ass feet on me one more time. Because they were cold when he was living, but then they were cold, right? And at a certain point you get used to the cold, and then you turn around and he all just laying up there like. And I told him take out that trash, and he didn't do it.
Mira.
Okay, are you guys ready for your headliner for the night? You know him and love him from The Daily Show, so put your hands together for Josh Johnson!
I've been trying to listen to more music because I think that obviously it's important to read, it's important to talk to people. But I think music has a special place where you can learn something. Sometimes there's something that you can get from music that you just cannot get anywhere else. It doesn't hit the same through spoken word, it doesn't hit the same way through prose, through reading it, because I think whether it's melody or it's rhythm, there's something that you open yourself up to when there's music that you wouldn't if there wasn't. Like, it's a hard thing to explain sometimes, but there are little things that are written that stick with me. But then sometimes there's things that are just sung, and maybe it's just because of the way it's sung or something. I like that lyric. Let me think about that more, and then you chew on an idea, right? Music is incredibly powerful. Like, I think about back in Louisiana, I know somebody who she divorced her husband with a singing telegram. Now, you can already imagine how different it hits to maybe be at a dinner and demand a divorce. I'm sick of this. I'm tired of you. I'm always putting up with the same stuff. I want a divorce. You know what I mean? Your server is like, so, no dessert. You know, or even if you just write someone a letter, they're sitting at home reading this letter in this unsealed envelope. They're just sitting there reading it like, What? But to have a singing telegram show up, knock on your door, be hitting the music, you know, little stereo, standing there. Beat starts, they're just, I am your singing telegram. And then they give you the worst news of your life. Dancing to it too. She doesn't want to see you anymore. You become a bore. She wants a divorce. And putting his hand out for a tip. You know, music hits different. I think sometimes one of the most beautiful ways to remember somebody that you lost is through music. Sometimes you'll tell a story or something, and if the story doesn't hold a significance for a person, it just doesn't. They don't capture the thing that you captured when you talked to them or when the story happened. Maybe you had to be there, maybe you had to know the person. But when somebody leaves a song behind, that's like timeless in a way. We lost a very important person, legendary person. We lost Quincy Jones, right? And if you don't know who Quincy Jones is, just educate yourself. I mean, Quincy Jones is not just a legend, an icon of culture, of music, but something deeper, like understood. Quincy understood people, understood music, understood storytelling, right? Quincy was one of the master collaborators. There were people that you love and you love their work and you don't know Quincy's in it. You know? Like that. It's that way with Michael Jackson. Quincy and Michael Jackson had major hits. Michael Jackson owed some of his biggest hits to his collaborations with Quincy Jones, because Quincy could help pull out the best parts of the person that he was collaborating with. And there's even stories. There's legendary stories that Quincy Jones has told. More stories than I could ever even attempt to describe. Like crazy stuff. This man lived one of the most remarkable lives in American history. And there's stories that are so insane that Quincy's like not even in the story, but he's in the story. Like he's not even a part of the story, but the story came together because of Quincy. As an example, I heard this story. It's a little bit less than a rumor, but a part of me wants it to be true because it's fantastic. Quincy had daughters. Quincy's daughters were, one of them was Khadijah, and at one point Khadijah apparently was dating Tupac, right? And this still blows my mind. So Tupac, through potential collaborations that they were supposed to do, knows Michael Jackson, right? Michael Jackson obviously knows Quincy Jones from the hits that they made together and everything. But there's this one time where when Tupac was leaving somewhere with Khadijah, like I don't know if it was like a dance club or something like that, but they were having an argument. And you know, one of those arguments that you see where you're like, I don't know, is this bad? This, like, you know, like as a couple when you see them, and maybe it was that whisper fight, and you know that thing that couples do. It's like, I'm just. That's a big one at restaurants, you know. Oh yeah, you ever date somebody that could curse you out with those whispers? They hitting all the F's. Nobody hears, but. And you know, if you passing by, I don't know, is this a bad fight? Who knows? Or maybe they were having a screaming match. It doesn't seem like it because it seemed like kind of one side. Like Tupac was very annoyed with Khadijah trying to get her to come along and everything. And we've all been in a situation, if you've just been out, where you've seen a couple argue and you're like, is this bad? Do you know what I mean? Like you've been in a Walmart parking lot. Where you were like, is this just how they talk to each other? Or like, should I step in or something? Because this is uncomfortable, you know? And I'm not picking on Walmart. I've been to a Golden Corral and just waiting to be seated and you're like, all right, they about to eat together? That doesn't seem like a happy occasion. And so, you know, Tupac was saying something tantamount to like, come on, girl, hurry up, come on, right? But they're leaving as Michael Jackson is coming in, and Michael Jackson sees this, and so he approaches Tupac because of the closeness that he has with Quincy Jones. Quincy Jones' daughters are like Tupac's nieces to a certain degree. It's like that with any close friendship, you know? This is your uncle. Well, we're not related, but that's your uncle, right? And he says, hey, is everything okay? I don't like how you're talking to her. You need to chill out. You need to calm down, right? And then Tupac apparently says to Mike, hey, back up, all right? This is none of your business. Be about your way, all right? And then Michael is like, no, you don't understand. This is pretty much my niece. You're not going to talk to her any type of way, especially in public. You need to calm down, right? And then tells him again, you need to back up. You need to back off, right? And then according to the story, Michael Jackson beat Tupac's ass. know how it sounds. But this is my thing. When I look at Tupac, I look at Michael Jackson, I can't help but wonder if the two of them, in a way, are like the inverse of each other. You know? Because we've seen from footage of this person that Tupac is, right? This incredibly adept poet, this person who pulls the tenderness out of horrific things and expresses that tenderness back through music or just through written word. That type of poet, that person is in some ways a sensitive person, like a sensitive soul. Maybe not soft, maybe not, you know, but there's someone who clearly has a sensitive side that they can access. And I think that a lot of like thug life, a lot of the street stuff, some of that is to sell records. Some of that he was really living. But you can't help but wonder how much of this persona is a persona to sell, to market, and how much of this is actually him. Because what if, when no one's around, behind closed doors, when you're just chilling, this guy is a sweetheart, sensitive person. You know, it's what's been said about him through people who knew him. And you look at Michael Jackson, we know Michael Jackson was abused horribly. Joe Jackson beat those kids. And you go through your life like that with abuse, it can harden a person. And maybe behind closed doors, when no one was around, maybe Mike was like a little bit more hardened than we'd like to believe. You know? So imagine that. You're fighting Michael Jackson. It's gotta be upsetting. I can't imagine trying to fight Michael Jackson, the king of pop. I can't imagine him fighting without doing moves for no reason. Imagine trying to fight Michael Jackson and he punch you, but he moving his leg. The leg not involved in the punch. You have the king of pop, right? And you have Tupac. Tupac is on the Everest of hip hop, right? Tupac, for better or for worse, created an entire lane of hip hop that people went down and either created some of the best artistry that I think personally has been known to man musically, and then some people who leaned into the street side a little too much and it just became something destructive. But Tupac is up there, and Tupac is who you would imagine would be beating on anybody, right? I'm not saying Tupac couldn't fight. All I will say is that the one fight that I saw Tupac in is the one that we can all see him in. It's the night that he was fighting with those dudes in Vegas. You know? A bunch of guys on his side, guys on the other side, everybody can be. I'm not saying Tupac couldn't fight. I'm saying the way that I saw him fighting in that video looked like the way all of us might try to double dutch. Do you know what I mean? Because there was a big cartoonish scuffle, just feet in the air, fists out of the, you know what I mean? Just like, you know, like with those Looney Tunes smoke clouds of fights and everything, and Tupac was outside of it, and you could tell he was trying to find his place. He was like, and now, you're fighting Michael Jackson. Someone so horrifically coordinated. He hitting you and then pop it and lock it. Doing all these extra moves and stuff. Michael Jackson probably the only person in human history that could be beating somebody's ass and sound like he getting beat at the same time. Just, he punching you, kicking you, and then he the one be like, ow! Be mad as hell. You trying to fight Michael Jackson. You trying to swing on him and everything. And every time you think you really got a good one, you planned it out, you know, the fist is gonna go in his face and I'm swinging with all your might. And then he just doing these dumbass leans. Be terrifying. Trying to fight Michael Jackson, he got enough cardio to dance for 3 concerts. You know, and he thin too, so he hard to hit, he moving off. You swinging at him, he's saying stuff to you, words that don't make any sense. Tamagotchi. What am I supposed to do? Whispering to you. You know what I mean? Because sometimes, especially if you have a fondness for a person, there's at least rumor that there are these tracks that got scrapped between Michael Jackson and Tupac. They were supposed to be on some songs together, right? So it's not as if they didn't know each other. And now imagine, you know this person, and you don't want to hurt them. They were talking disrespectfully to someone else that you love, and maybe they pushed you first, and now you're fighting, and then, you know, you hit him, and you hit him hard. You hit him real good. Now Tupac bent over and everything. Michael Jackson, he didn't even want to say it, but he's like, "Are you okay?" The way I imagine it, Tupac gathered himself and was like, "No, I'm not done. I can't go out like this." And he was written back in, you know, swinging at him and everything. And Michael Jackson went to kick him. And that, even when Michael Jackson was dancing, he wouldn't kick normal. He was never just like doing a kick. It was always like his leg was gonna come off. The whole kick. And now you stand there, you've been kicked 17 times, you still standing up, got all these footprints on you like you got run over at a marathon or something. Your friends roll up to you and now you gotta be like, It was 6 of them. They came out of nowhere. They all had the same shoe on. No. This is brutal. You know what I mean? Imagine you fighting somebody you respect, too. You gotta fight one of your heroes. It's unnerving. Beating you up. Fixing his hat for no reason. Because hearing about this fight, hearing about this rumor, reminded me of a different rumor that I heard about Michael Jackson. Something that, I don't know. I mean, it's you can take it or leave it. I don't know. It's something that I believed for a little while because of who was saying it. But basically, Michael Jackson had such a passion for the specific art that he was doing. Not just the music, not just the spectacle, but just the whole thing. So much so that he would let it spill off stage. And all of it became a persona. All of it became a presentation, performance, almost all the time. And one of the ways that it presented itself was not just in how he dressed and how he looked and stuff, but also how he spoke. Because there's an idea that if you can be meek enough, if you can be gentle enough, if you can be soft-spoken enough, that people's perceptions of you will almost pass past you and just see the music. If you're not this big, larger-than-life character, if you're not getting in trouble all the time, maybe if people can just see me as this, like, the same kid that they fell in love with, now just making bigger and better things, maybe they'll love the bigger and better things I have to make, right? And so there's a rumor from a few different people who knew Mike well, who would chill with him, sometimes just out by themselves, when there was no risk of being seen by the public. And they said that that voice, the voice that we know as Michael Jackson, the voice that's been, you know, imitated over decades, was not his voice. That's what they said, that if you were hanging out with Michael Jackson, you just chilling with him at his time. He actually had a way more like level register than that, which is something that shocked me, because I was like, wow, imagine putting that much into a performance, that it's like off stage and it's everywhere, and it's everyone that you meet, you're shaking hands with people, you're meeting people, and that's still not quite you. You're still putting it on a little bit, right? But now imagine you're fighting Michael Jackson. And not only is he beating your ass, but every once in a while he's like, come here, bitch. Like, that's... That's gotta be maybe the most shocking part. I don't know what I would do. You're fighting Michael Jackson, and he's making 3 different noises at the same time. He got a low one, he got a high one. He's saying weird stuff. Not only do you have to fight Michael Jackson, you gotta fight a possessed version of Michael Jackson, I'm assuming, because you've never heard him talk like this. No. That's one of the funniest images I have in my head is Michael Jackson punching you in your forehead, and they'd be like, what's up, nigga? Like, that's... No, what's really hood, dog? What's really... Imagine, and you're Tupac, you're getting beat, presumably in front of some people, by Michael Jackson. At a certain point, you gotta be like, guys, somebody must have a gun. Shoot this man. Even if you try to shoot him, Michael Jackson probably like catching the bullets. Well, maybe he knocks you down. You laying on the ground. You ever seen somebody get beat? I know I'm digressing to digress, but like this, you ever see somebody get beat up real bad and all of a sudden it's almost like they have a cold or something because they start coughing? You know, it's like they get punched a couple times, they're like, and then Michael Jackson rolls you over with his foot, you know. Walks around you all disrespectful, just fixing his belt and stuff. He's standing over you. You don't know what's about to happen next. You don't know if he's gonna curb dance you or... You're waiting for him. Is Michael Jackson gonna kill me? He's looking down at you. Maybe you even try to get up one more time. Maybe you got a little fight left. I can't go out like this. I have thug life tattooed on me. You give it all you got. You swinging at Michael Jackson. You kicking at him and stuff. And you got to worry about extra. You got to worry about like extra things with Mike. You know, you got to worry about his kicks, his punches. You know, you also got to worry about his pelvis. He also moving that all weird and stuff. Imagine somebody punching at you and then just, I don't know what to do with that. It's very upsetting. Michael Jackson punches you down to the ground again. You hit the ground. You're like, this is it. He's gonna kill me. And he's standing over you, towering over you. When you're waiting for him to hit you with that death blow, he just goes, I don't know, it probably didn't happen, but it's fun to dream.
Paranoid and impoverished people and give them an eating disorder as well. That's awesome. That's awesome. The man did what I thought he never could. Oh, an osprey. It's got a fish. That fish is full of heavy metal. You're probably going to want to try hot water purified shilajit from chalk. Okay, let's just go to the next part.
I'm 30. I can't believe it, actually. I just remember being 15. Feels like yesterday. And 10. I remember 10. When I get younger in age, I remember less, though, probably because I got all 26 doses of the vaccines by the time I was 2 years old.
What? I'm gonna be I'm gonna be real with you, Shane. I don't actually think that that is the reason that you don't have many memories from a young age. I think it's probably more likely that you, like literally every single one of the fucking 8 billion people on this beautiful planet, had your brain still fucking like developing when you were that age. So you don't have any memories from that age because your brain was like a squishy fucking, like it was like a bag of Pepto-Bismol rattling around in your fucking head. Unless you have some like crazy neurological shit going on, nobody remembers things from when they were a fucking baby. And like, if you do, it's a rarity. It's not common is my point. This is not something that can be like, you know, like disproven by like, I have a memory from when I was 4 or 5. I also have a memory from when I was 4 or 5, but I have a lot more memories from when I was fucking 16 than I do from when I was like 3. That happens to everyone naturally. That has nothing to do with a fucking vaccine. You, god damn. It must be exhausting to just be this paranoid all the time that like everything in the world is just some plot to like, you know, get you. Like, okay guys, new satanic plan. Why don't we inject everyone with a vaccine so they don't remember when they were a baby? That'll fuck them up. Like, what does this even mean? Oh, bro is just talking out his ass. I gotta say, I think short form content is something that Shane should stick to a little bit more, because at least there, he's got a time constraint on the bullshit he can say, and like, he can edit things out, you know? But with like a 4-hour live stream, this dude can just like, fucking say pretty much whatever he wants. You know, I'm actually gonna even take this a step farther. Not only are vaccines not responsible for you losing the memories of your life when you were a toddler, but I would actually go as so far as to say that vaccines are directly responsible for any memories you do still have from when you were a toddler, because they allowed you to live past being a fucking toddler. I wish that every anti-vax person on the planet could teleport back in time and like just live as like a pioneer family in like the 1800s. I would love to see these motherfuckers change their tone after watching every single person they know die of fucking measles. That sounds really harsh, and I don't mean that as like I genuinely wish like ill upon these people, but like it is amazing to me that we have managed to grow the population of the planet to this size. We have managed to improve life experience and life expectancy as much as we have, thanks to fucking vaccines, and thanks to the fucking medical improvements we've had. And these dumbass motherfuckers are sitting there like, actually no, this is all terrible and part of a satanic plan. I grew up outside of Boston, Massachusetts. The cemetery near my house had graves dating back to like the late 1600s. I was always really moved going to these fucking cemeteries, and one of the things that moved me the most was how many tiny fucking headstones there were. Do you have any idea why those tiny fucking headstones were there? It's because so many kids died. They got fucking measles, they got fucking typhus, they got fucking tuberculosis, and they fucking died. Now we have vaccines and medicine for all that shit, and these dumbass motherfuckers are on fucking Rumble being like, actually guys, it's responsible for your memory loss. This fucking shit could make people not vaccinate their kids. It is making people not vaccinate their kids. We had a fucking measles outbreak. Do you have any idea how fucking insane that is? This is what I mean of like, don't let these people fucking gaslight you if like, it's just not that deep, bro. Like, I just care about people's health and well-being. You clearly fucking don't, Shane. You have a child. You have a human child that is yours, blood of your fucking blood. I pray on my fucking mother's grave that your child is vaccinated. Jesus H. Christ. Because if they're fucking not, that is on you. Ah, these people are fucking stupid. I hope that I make it into like a 2016 style, like, SJW Gets Owned compilation, or like SJW Rage compilation, but it's gonna be on like, you know, like libs of TikTok, and it's gonna just be that clip, and it's gonna be like, woke YouTuber rages about vaccine mandates. But you know what? At the end of the day, bro, if you don't wanna get your fucking vaccine, you know, I'll send your family flowers. Now that you've made it through that part of the video, which is stupid as shit, I want to show you what is my favorite part of this entire stream. And that is, it's very brief, so you're gonna miss it. So if you're folding your laundry or watching, you know, washing your fucking dishes, come to your screen for a second. I want you to watch this, because I am like 97% sure that this fucking guy pops a Zin.
He said, you'll probably live a long time. You know what's funny, Oofchi?
Fucking A. fucking A. Like, I've watched this so many times and I'm like trying to figure out if that's actually what he's doing. And like, unless he I have no better explanation at all. I mean, he even fucking adjusts it later. There's a part where he's talking and he's doing this kind of thing, you know?
That was that.
Oh my god, it's just, I couldn't script something this fucking funny. Here comes Shane talking about how you don't want to ingest any toxins and how we got to detox from, you know, like those synthetic products. Wouldn't want to be ingesting any fucking toxins, would you, Shane? Maybe just a little pouch of synthetic nicotine crystals directly on the fucking thinnest skin in your body. Fuck me. The body is a temple, right? God damn, bro. You just can't make this up. Like, that is like something out of a fucking sketch, you know? A guy talking about how, you know, scaring everyone into thinking that their fucking lives are gonna be ruined by, you know, heavy metals and fucking atrazine, and then taking, you know, synthetic fucking nicotine crystals. It's just beautiful. It's just beautiful. Okay, so here's the part of this live stream that I saved for last, because while the rest of it is a lot more entertaining, this part is probably the most pertinent.
Now that it's blown open, July 4th might be chill. Someone name a time where someone gave a date for a significant attack. Because before 9/11, no one said, oh, 9/11, there's going to be an attack. Of course, we had all those, the numerology and the different subliminal subconscious programmings of, hey, look at 9/11 in this old Simpson comic, and it was before 9/11, and then after 9/11, we went back and we saw how many times they kind of put it in our subconscious about this 9/11 stuff. But no one said on 9/11 this attack's going to happen. People said there's going to be an attack. In fact, Alex Jones actually did say there's going to be some type of attack, and it's going to get America involved in a war in the Middle East. And he did say that before 9/11, but he didn't say 9/11 and there's going to be towers, etc.
9/11 truthisms, numerology, wearing a triangle on his head in front of a giant pile of supplements, and quoting walking tumor Alex Jones. That right there is a bingo. I would say that that bingo is so big, it's a finish your drink and then get another drink and then finish that one as well. I'm not gonna do that though, because if I chugged the rest of that, I would be incoherent for the rest of this video. I'm already incoherent as it is. I'm incoherent sober. Okay, so this stream that we're watching pieces of here took place right before the 4th of July, which is Independence Day here in the United States. And so one of Shane's really big narratives was that they're putting like biological weapons in the fireworks, and they're gonna detonate all the fireworks and then like scatter, people with biological weapons. I once again ask, why? And then I also will ask, what? I always say that the difference between a complete bullshit conspiracy theory and a conspiracy theory that could have some merit to it is motive. And I'm once again asking you, what the fuck is the motive here? Are you trying to what, kill everyone with chemicals from a firework? Like, I don't understand. What's the fucking move there? Like, you're the Illuminati shadow government. Couldn't you, kill everyone in a more simple way, like chemtrails and then turning up the 5G to make their heads explode? It's just fucking weird, bottom line. And I don't know if this is like common conspiracy theory or if this is just something that like Shane came up with to be like the beating drum for the days leading up to the 4th of July to get people to come check him out over on Rumble. Either way, of course, the only way that you can save yourself from this sinister plan, this satanic plan, if you will, this satanic plan, I don't know what to tell you, is of course to buy supplements using Shane's promo code. It kind of seems like he knows that this conspiracy is like totally fucking nuts. And so like throughout this live stream, he sprinkles in these parts where he's like, now, because we're talking about this, people are becoming aware of it, so they may not actually do it. I'm like, bro, you are on a Twitter live stream with 38 people. I promise you the shadow government are not all sitting there on July 3rd, in the group chat texting each other like, fuck guys, Shane's blown the lid off our secret plan. What are we gonna do now? Bill, you got any more vaccines lying around? It's like the same thing that every doomsday cult has ever done, where they're like, guys, the world's gonna end on this day, and then the world doesn't end, and they're like, oh shit, no, it's gonna end, I was just wrong about the day. It's like, at what point do you acknowledge that you're just here to pick people's pockets, huh? I also think it's funny that he brings up like 9/11 numerology and says something like, nobody knew that it was gonna happen on that date. When in the first episode that we did on Shane, we talked about one of his videos where he literally claimed that the band Supertramp had advanced knowledge of 9/11 because if you take the Breakfast in America album cover and reverse it, it says 9/11 in front of the World Trade Center. And then in this live stream, he's like, no one could ever have known it was gonna happen then. And then he says something like, well, now if you look back at all the signs, all the signs were there. Yeah, no shit, Shane, because you have a pattern-seeking brain. Now that the thing that happened has happened, you can look back in retrospect and find album covers and fucking Simpsons episodes and shit. If 9/11 happened on a different date, these fucking morons would just be finding that date everywhere instead. But probably the most concerning part of all of this is him bringing up Alex Jones. Okay, now don't get me wrong, the guy is fucking hilarious, unintentionally. But once you move past like the sound bites about, gay frogs, he is genuinely one of the most despicable human beings on the entire planet. He's promoted a litany of conspiracy theories about 9/11 and the Oklahoma City bombing, claimed that his political opposition are child-sacrificing Satanists, and most memorably in my lifetime became the most vocal advocate of the conspiracy theory that the Sandy Hook school shooting in 2012 was a false flag attack, and that the 26 innocent people who were were needlessly slaughtered by a fucking human monster, 20 of whom were between the ages of 6 and 7 years old, were actually just actors. And that the whole thing was just a big publicity stunt by the US government to infringe on our right to bear arms. I can't say how I honestly feel about Alex Jones here on YouTube. So the way that I'll put it is that Alex Jones is a genuinely reprehensible human being. And on a completely unrelated topic, I sometimes hope that I'm wrong and that hell is real. The conspiracy theories that Alex Jones has created and pushed are fucking disgusting, and the damage that they have caused is impossible to calculate. So Shane quoting him not once, but twice in this little highlights reel is concerning on its own, but that's only the beginning. Do you know how Alex Jones built his multi-million-dollar empire? Are you ready for this? Selling fucking supplements. According to the Huffington Post, in the course of 3 years, Alex Jones' store brought in a staggering $165 million, a large portion of which he got from selling supplements. Supplements which, of course, fall under DSHEA and do not have to be verified by the fucking FDA. Meaning that in this case, our trust in the reliability and safety of these products is hinged on the word of Alex fucking Jones, the guy who thinks that 20 murdered first graders was a fucking publicity stunt. Holy fuck. So how does Alex Jones actually sell these supplements? I mean, he profits from the misinformation too, of course, you know, through ad revenue and growing his following. But if you add supplements in there, you got yourself a pretty lucrative business. I mean, hey, 165 million bucks in 3 years ain't so bad, is it? Can't you see that, Alex? You could be sitting in a multi-million-dollar house in the New England coast getting, you know, sprayed by chemtrails. You could be living the high life, brother. I mean, hey, you know, if you can't beat the elites, well, you may as well join them. But if you want to do that, Alex, if you want to cash that fucking check, you're gonna need buyers. And so what do? I mean, what kind of question is that, guys? The answer is obvious. You gotta scare the living shit out of people. Make up whatever conspiracies you like. Who gives a shit? The scarier the better. Make them about vaccines and terrorist attacks. Why not throw in a little homophobia and racism as well while you're at it? There's a new atrocity in the news cycle. How can I ride the coattails of this? Quick, let's pull into the conspiracy theory bucket. It was caused by socialist trans frogs, and they're coming for your kids. Remember, nothing is off the table here. After all, you're preying on the fearful and ignorant, and you're not here to try and enlighten them. After all, their paranoia is your market. And then once your victims are scared shitless about the socialist trans frogs coming to take your children, you finally get to reveal that you can protect them from it, and that you're actually here to help them. Guys, I know you've been spending hours watching me ramble about nebulous things that you should be really scared of, and now you are understandably very scared, but thank God for you, there's me, because I have the solution. And that's to go to the fucking Alex Jones store where you can buy yourself some fucking powdered monkey testicles. It'll increase your testosterone by 8 million %. And just like that, you got him hook, line, and sinker. Wow. That one's right over me. Guys, the thought police. Oh my God, it's the weather beam. They're pointing it directly at me. I'm raining. I'm raining. Pause. Okay, pulling it back in. I had way too much fun with that one. That in my script was like 3 sentences. This is the problem with having my scripts be like mostly just like fragment sentences and then just ad-libbing every word that you hear pretty much. Now in my last video, I drew a comparison between Alex Jones and Shane Vibes. And in that video, I made a point to say that I was not comparing Shane to Alex Jones. But you know what? Now I fucking am. Because as far as I see it, the two are pretty fucking similar. Even when I go to the InfoWars website, which I did for this video and I don't recommend any of you do, and in that banner on the Alex Jones page, I immediately recognized Shilajit Complex as one of the fucking things that Shane's always peddling. And of course, the icing on the cake is in this advertisement. It's got fucking bottles of pills, gold stars and stickers and shit, and right in the middle, none other than the little fucking troll himself, Alex Jones, hands raised like a fucking preacher. It's a satanic plan. I don't know what to tell ya. Shane and Alex have product pitches that follow the exact same beat. And the products they advertise seem very similar. And there is no conspiracy too despicable to not be used as a sales pitch. The more that I look at it, the more I see the differences between these two are actually quite few. Shane admittedly is a bit more of a pussyfoot with his words, often sort of just like vaguely implying the, homophobia, racism, sexism, you name it, and then just letting whoever sees his video say the quiet part out loud in the comments. This, and of course that Alex with his fucking multi-million-dollar paychecks is in the grifter scumbag big leagues, while Shane's spamming short-form videos every single day and live streaming on Rumble is still playing fucking t-ball. So while there may be differences, as far as I'm concerned, these two are cut from the same fucking cloth. Okay, now let's talk about the consequences. Holy shit! Yo, did you see that? That hummingbird almost hit me in the fucking skull. Jarring scene change. Is this chair creaking gonna be in the audio? Someone's having fun. Oh my god. Y'all, this series has taken me such a long time to film. At the time that I am filming this part 1 isn't even out yet. And I started filming part 1 in May, and it is currently on August's doorstep. So now I get to finish part 2. Which is honestly one of the last things that I want to do on a day as beautiful as this one. I honestly think that if we lived in a perfect world, I could kind of just end the video there, because I'm pretty sure that anyone with an ample amount of firing neurons would be able to tell what the issue is with everything that we've just talked about. But I am unfortunately aware that we do not live in a perfect world, and so I think it's really important for me to dedicate a section of this video to talking very explicitly about the consequences. So I have a bit of a hunch. See, I've spent a lot of time working with conspiracy theorists and victims of conspiracies, and I kind of know the way their brains operate. So I have a feeling that if Shane or one of the victims who's fallen for his videos and their content were to watch this video, and if they were to give any response, it would probably not be an acknowledgement, and it would probably more likely be a defense or a deflection. It would probably be something pretty similar to what Philip Ziba did in his response to my series on him, where he didn't even acknowledge any of the points I made, and more went for this angle of trying to be like, you're trying to silence me or cancel me, or you're blowing it out of proportion, or we're just asking questions here, as we have seen in the first part of this series and this part of this series, and will unfortunately see in however many more parts of this series there will be. Shane exemplifies this behavior constantly. I have a feeling that he knows that what he is saying is harmful, and so he tries to downplay it in the videos themselves by saying things like, hey look, some say, or according to alternative sources, or my favorite one, for entertainment purposes only. By pussyfooting around their words, Shane and other conspiracy theorists can sort of maintain this air of plausible deniability. That way, they don't have to accept any accountability for any of the consequences of people listening to the things that they're telling them, whether it be viewers spewing vile bigotry in the comments, or, God forbid, actually listening to his dogshit health advice. Downplaying what you're saying by saying that it's for entertainment purposes only, or we're just asking questions, is a classic conspiracy theorist move designed to shut down any criticism before they have even received it. A same vein as this is what Philip Ziba would do in his videos, where he would use the term Google debunkers to shame anyone who would dare fact check what he's saying. I hate to use the word again, but I think it's appropriate here. This is a strategy that is designed to gaslight people into thinking that their response is an overreaction. I have really no way of describing this tactic other than childish and cowardly. It is a beautiful piece of proof that many people in the conspiracy world have no experience in science whatsoever, and that the pseudoscience air that they give themselves is a complete facade, because they don't want to be challenged. They don't want the opinions of their audience to be challenged. They want to be the capital T truth. So firstly, as far as these particular supplements go, and this particular company goes, I don't really have that much of a problem with them beyond just like personal opinion. Like, yeah, I think that calling a supplement Chad mode is pretty fucking cringe, but I don't have some like deep analysis on chalk. Maybe their products do what they say they do, maybe they don't, I don't know, and frankly, I don't care. Because the issue here isn't these supplements. Hell, my issue isn't even with Shane selling things. After all, my man has a family to feed. The issue is much more severe than just like this guy and this company. The issue is the marketing strategy, the implications of that marketing strategy, and the consequences on the people who listen to that marketing strategy. So here are my fucking bullets. Write this shit down. Get your notebooks out. The issues are as follows. Shane frequently scaremongers using widely disproven health conspiracies to push his Chalk promotions. This company, Chalk, seemingly has no issue with their products being promoted using widely disproven health conspiracy theories. Because Chalk is presumably a large part of Shane's income, he is not motivated by honesty, but by money, and is therefore incentivized to say anything that will sell more supplements. And lastly, these sales pitches are perfectly crafted to prey on paranoid, disenfranchised, impoverished people. So with all of that understood, we can now begin to look at what bullshit like this actually does to people. Growing up, I went to a Waldorf school. Could you tell? Waldorf was, it was Waldorf. It was full of anti-vaxxers and homeopathic remedies, and I don't think there was a microwave in the entire building. In the younger grades, the girls in my class would dress up in olden days, like bonnets and prairie dresses and things. Ironically, mirroring a time period where they likely all would have died of measles, but didn't have to in the modern world because at least everyone around us was vaccinated. Needless to say, I grew up around a lot of woo-y people. I mean, theosophy was a foundational tenet of my early education. So I've seen chakras and tarot cards and Saint Germain and, had drops put under my tongue from a little brown bottle. Now, other than the anti-vax side of things, most of the woo-y stuff I've sort of experienced has been pretty harmless. If believing in vibrations and frequencies helps you sleep at night, fucking power to ya. But being raised in an environment like this, I got first-hand examples of the exact moment when going against the mainstream went from a harmless alternative way of thinking to something that could be genuinely dangerous. The most memorable example that I have of this was from a few years ago from a family friend who was battling cancer. At a visit that I paid to their house, they excitedly showed me this new thing that they had got as sort of a self-diagnosed part of their treatment. It was, I shit you not, like a laser of some kind. And right off the bat, I was like, oh, that's interesting. What's this? And then they brought out the manual for this thing, and it was like a fucking phone book. And in this book was all of the things that this laser could apparently help with. And this thing was as thick as a phone book for a fucking reason, because it had pretty much everything you could possibly imagine in that book. Everything from headaches to HIV. Right off the bat, this made the fucking hair on the back of my neck stand up. Now, this thing did boast an FDA approval, which when I looked into it a little bit more was an approval that was granted to it for its efficacy in helping heal minor abrasions of the skin. But if I was just to go off this book, it could cure pretty much fucking anything. I held my tongue about this because this friend was still undergoing all of the modern clinically proven cancer treatments. And if having this thing made them feel empowered in their illness, I was not going to take that away from them. Yet I couldn't help but think that if this friend was someone different, someone less trusting and more paranoid, they may have tried to use this laser instead of modern cancer treatments. And if they were to have done that, they would probably die. The final thing that I noticed about this magic laser was its retail price of $5,000. This laser plagued me for a long time after this visit. I was trying to figure out why the fuck a company with a legitimate FDA approval would do something like this. And then it struck me, and it was the most simple answer imaginable. Well, it's because it makes them a lot of money. Hey, money's money. Who gives a shit if you have to get it by preying on people with AIDS and stage 4 cancer? There's a good fucking Milo Rossi soundbite. My God. I'm sure that this company would make quite a bit of money just, selling this product to hospitals to treat skin abrasions. But you know what's a lot bigger market than hospitals? The sick and dying. And hey, they're desperate enough that they'll buy fucking anything. Look, I know that $5,000 is a lot, but is your life worth that? And just like that, boom, you got fucking $5,000 in your pocket. Rinse and repeat a few times and you're gonna be sitting pretty on a beach somewhere drinking a fucking Mai Tai. And who gives a shit if there's some body bags somewhere? You have plausible deniability. After all, you said in that manual that it wasn't clinically proven and it could help treat cancer. Oh, what do you mean your spouse died? I wrote on the back of the manual that it was for entertainment purposes only. Thanks for the $5,000. Anyway, here's a tissue, wipe those tears up. I gotta go try and sell one of these things to someone with AIDS. As far as I could tell, this whole laser thing was just a complete piece of pseudo-medical bullshit. A sleek design, an FDA approval, a manual full of long words, and a professional $5,000 price tag. Now sure, this device may have actual medical applications, just like the supplements, which may actually have some legitimate health benefits. But in both cases, it feels as though the ethos of the sale has gone from treating something specific to just making as much money as possible. And despite their differences, with one being marketed as a flashy professional piece of medical medical equipment and the other being marketed as a traditional medical miracle, both prey on the same demographic, the scared and the desperate. The supplements prey on parents who think 5G is going to turn their kids gay, and the laser preys on parents whose kids have cancer. This was one of my first personal experiences with the dangers of health pseudoscience, and I share this story to show that I'm not just talking out my ass here. And even though thankfully this story didn't have a disastrous ending, it very easily could have. So now that you have a small example that doesn't have a disastrous ending, let's talk about a really big example that has a very disastrous ending. In 2018, on the American-occupied island of American Samoa, 2 one-year-olds died after receiving a vaccine. The cause of their tragic death was not the vaccine itself, but a mistake. Somehow, in preparing the injections, the doctors accidentally used a muscle relaxant instead of sterilized water. A costly but freak accident that led to the death of 2. Understandably, the residents of American Samoa were pretty shaken up after this incident. Being a small community, word of this tragedy spread quickly and led to many of the residents beginning to feel a distrust towards the medical system. Even though this was a complete accident, a mistake involving operator error and carelessness, it was a really big mistake to make. And at the cost of 2 human lives, it was the responsibility of the medical system to rebuild that trust with the community. However, just as the medical system began the slow road to rebuilding trust with the island's population, the anti-vax grifters swarmed to this incident like the flies they are to a pile of shit, with faux sympathies of the 2 dead children acting like a Trojan horse to push their agenda on the frightened population. This all came to a head when one of the most well-known anti-vax grifters from the United States made a personal trip to American Samoa. There, he met with and promoted other anti-vax influencers and used the incident as an opportunity to beat the war drums against vaccines on social media. In 2013, about 5 years before this incident, 90% of the one-year-olds in American Samoa had been vaccinated and immunized against measles. By about 2018, right before this incident occurred, that number was about 75%. The early whispers of the anti-vax movement are partly to blame for this initial decrease, and reflects the poor education around vaccines and health safety in this American-controlled territory. This number is made even more stark when compared to the surrounding islands, many of which are sovereign autonomous nations that boast immunization rates of up to 99% of their populations. This 75% immunity in one-year-olds in 2018 was reasonable, but still far below the 95% needed to secure herd immunity that would protect the entire population, leaving the population of this island vulnerable. Now, if you thought that 75% number was bad, I got news for you. In the year following the incident, the population of American Samoa was bombarded with anti-vax misinformation and lies. And as a result, the number of immunized one-year-olds dropped from 75% to 30%, leaving scores of newborn children vulnerable to a deadly disease in a country with an already taxed medical system where 40% of the population is living below the poverty line. Milo, I don't know why you're talking about it like this, man. This actually sounds like a huge win for the free thinkers. It is so great to see our heroes coming from here in the United States and going overseas to teach those poor, incapable people how to take care of themselves. They were being test subjects for the Illuminati Freemason woke agenda. We shared with them the good word. We saved them. All that's to say, I have no idea what you're crashing out about, Snowflake. I'm sure all of this was completely harmless. Right? Right? In August of 2019, a flight took off from Auckland, Australia, headed for American Samoa. Unknown to those on board, one of the passengers was infected with measles. And with the simple push of a button from some unwitting attendant opening the jetway, measles was released onto the island. At first, the disease spread slowly, bouncing from individual to individual. But by October, it had become a full-blown outbreak. For 4 months, the disease ripped through the unprotected population. Unsurprisingly, the group that was hit the hardest by this outbreak were the babies, who were unvaccinated due to the propaganda of anti-vaccine conspiracy theorists. By that December of 2019, 20% of the babies in American Samoa between the ages of 6 and 12 months had contracted measles. I will say that one more time. 20% of the babies between 6 and 12 months had contracted measles. 20%. Many of these children's parents who were victims of the propaganda from these anti-vaccine influencers did not contract measles because they themselves had been vaccinated. Still distrusting of the modern medical system, many of these parents, victims of an anti-vax disinformation campaign, chose not to bring their babies to hospitals, but to traditional healers. Healers who were, of course, incapable of doing anything against a disease that has wreaked havoc on humanity for centuries and brought entire civilizations to their knees. By the time the first 70 deaths had been reported, 60 of them were under the age of 5. By late December, the outbreak was beginning to come under control. Immunization rates spiked to 94% of the population, and the measles virus, with few unvaccinated victims left to infect, burned itself out. When all was said and done, the 2019 American Samoa measles outbreak had infected more than 5,700 people and killed 83. An overwhelming majority of those dead were children. To put this very bluntly, these children didn't die of measles. These children were killed by disinformation. The anti-vaccine influencers and conspiracy theorists who used the 2018 incident as ammunition to push their agenda are directly responsible for the 2019 American Samoa measles outbreak and each and every death that it caused. The measles virus is an ancient threat. It is a disease that is estimated to have killed 200 million people in the course of our history. We brought it to heel through our ingenuity with vaccines and inoculations, fighting to ensure that no parent ever again should have to bury their child who was killed by measles. These 83 deaths were completely unnecessary. Every single drop of blood from this unnecessary tragedy is on the hands of the frauds and con men who enabled it to happen. Those are the hands of the influencers and the big-time grifter from right here on our own soil. I'm sure you could have already guessed this by now, but that American anti-vaccine conspiracy influencer who propelled this to such a fucking catastrophe was none other than RFK Jr., a charlatan scumbag of the highest order who Shane, of course, sings the praises of.
Even though I know a lot of people think RFK is a total wingnut, dude, I've been on RFK's email list for like, I don't know how many years, his Children's Health Defense. And if you guys look at some of what that organization did, I think we would all agree with it.
And of course, because we're all getting fucking front row seats to the destruction of civilized society, RFK Jr., the conspiracy theorist whose propaganda helped fan the flames of a measles outbreak that killed 83 people, has been appointed to be the United States Secretary of Health and Human Services, which is as ridiculous as appointing Larry fucking Nassar to be a school nurse. Jesus fucking Christ. Ugh. This pisses me off so fucking much. After the outbreak in American Samoa, RFK Jr., being the cowardly weasel that he is, tried to shirk any responsibility for the deaths that he was partly responsible for causing. He claimed that his visit to the territory had nothing to do with measles. It was just for entertainment purposes. Please don't be mad at me about the dead babies. I just wanted to make a wad of money. But even more blood-boiling than this, he addressed the outbreak, blaming it not only on the vaccines themselves, but on the islanders' poverty. Just the kind of scummy, disgusting shit that you can expect from a role model of Shane Vibes Truth. The American Samoa measles outbreak and my anecdote about the laser are just two examples of the danger of health conspiracy theories. And I think that they exemplify why what Shane is doing here is so fucking dangerous. It is my personally held belief that all conspiracy theorists start off as victims. People whose trust and distrust was taken advantage of and manipulated. Manipulated by people who don't actually care about them, but are using them. Using them to enrich themselves financially and publicly. Most conspiracy theorists are not really conspiracy theorists, they're victims of conspiracy theories. And whether they're your parents or that weird fucking guy at work, you know the one, all victims of conspiracy theories deserve a chance. It is everyone's responsibility to treat them with patience and help them understand the topics that they don't. After all, being tricked and lied to is completely forgivable. It is also my belief that Shane was once one of these victims, and he took the bait hook, line, and sinker. But rather than just sitting with his own ignorance, or God forbid, actually educating himself, Shane has instead decided to spread it, to poison others, and to profit off of their fear. The way that I see it, This is completely inexcusable. Shane seemingly has no medical background whatsoever, meaning that his anecdotes about health and medicine are not coming from some deep understanding of an authority figure. Rather than that, Shane is a sheep. Isn't that a movie? Shane the Sheep? Shaun the Sheep. That's the one. Instead of talking about legitimate health concerns and the research behind them, Shane obediently regurgitates the talking points of the elites that he trusts. People like Alex Jones and RFK Jr. Like both of the elites that he idolizes, Shane has also built a career off of spreading lies and deceit and profiting off of it immensely. While the scale and tone may absolutely be different, as far as I'm concerned, Shane, Alex Jones, and RFK Jr. are three heads of the same beast. Heads of the hydra of disinformation that is picking the flesh from the bones of the civilized world. None of them seem to give a flying fuck about what is true or ethical, simply what's going to make them the most money. RFK Jr. works closely with a law firm that specializes in vaccine lawsuits. He makes 10% off of every case they win. RFK Jr. doesn't fearmonger about vaccines because he cares about you. He does it because it makes him a lot of money. Alex Jones has spent a lifetime building a platform that preys on fear, death, and bigotry. He runs a store that sells prepper gear and supplements. Alex Jones doesn't spread false flag panic because he cares about you. He does it because it's making him a lot of money. Shane Vibes Truth has built a following of nearly 700,000 on Instagram, spreading every single conspiracy he can think of. He uses these conspiracies to push a promo code for supplements, on which he makes as much as a 20% commission. Shane doesn't talk about these conspiracy theories because he cares about you. He does it because it's making him a lot of money. Like all conspiracy theorists, they claim to be free thinkers and champions of fact and truth. But they are not. They are the sharks that circle in the bloody waters of our systemic failures. They hunt for the poor and the fearful and the angry and the desperate, whether it be on a remote island under generations of foreign occupation, or in a rural American town stricken with poverty, industries long shuttered, home to people who have been left behind by an empire to whom they have served their purpose. Conspiracy grifters claim to be aware of society's failures, that they can see the darkness through its torn fabric. But this is a lie, because every single grifter, from conspiracy theorist to CEO to politician to president to king, are riding atop the wheel that is crushing us. And they prey on that pressure that all of us can feel, and they offer to sell us salvation while they're sitting on our chests. I know that I compared conspiracy grifters to sharks earlier, but that was too generous. Conspiracy grifters are more like rats. They don't have the power to create the system, and many of them don't even really have the power to truly benefit from it. Instead, they are something much worse, the sniveling, obedient foot soldiers of it, diligently doing the dirty work of the elites they claim to despise, keeping we the people divided along arbitrary lines of politics, race, religion, sex, and creed. The conspiracy grifters are the final iteration of the conspiracy theory victim. Domesticated and unquestioning, traitors to their class and people, fighting to keep alive a system that sodomizes all of us. Our world is plagued with injustice, crippled by bigotry, and poisoned by the industries and actions of the corrupt elites who are getting rich off our backs. And as such, we live in a world that is wounded. Some seek to heal this wound, but conspiracy grifters, like botflies, seek to lay their eggs in it, to infect the weak for their personal gain, and to spread their poison to the farthest reaches of the civilized world. I really doubt that Shane is watching this, but in the off chance he is, I'd like to try and make an appeal to him in a language that I hope he'll understand. I am not a religious man, but it seems to me as though Shane is, which I fully respect. Now, while I personally view the fear and hatred that he spreads as being the antithesis of the teachings of the martyr who died on the symbol around his neck, it would be unfair for me to judge him on such a thing as, again, I am not a religious man. So I will leave the interpretation of the biblical morality of these actions to someone who understands the scriptures more than I do. But Shane, as an appeal to this part of your identity, I would like to leave you with one of the very few Bible verses that I actually know. I have no idea why I know this one, but I do, and I hope that you'll let it sit with you and metabolize it. Romans 15:1. Now we who are strong ought to bear the weakness of those without strength, and not just please ourselves. Shane, you have an immense responsibility. Throughout this video, I have illustrated that you are failing in that responsibility. You have lied and cheated the fearful and weak to please and enrich yourself. You are getting rich off the backs of those with little to give, and filling their heads with lies that could tear their families apart. This leads me to the final and I believe most pertinent appeal that I want to give you, Shane. I don't know how strong your religious convictions are, whether you live your life diligently by the scriptures and the teachings of love of Jesus Christ, or whether you simply wear that symbol to mask the hatred and fear that you spread behind a facade of piety. But I do happen to know one more part of your identity that is far more ancient and far more sacred than any text on earth. And that, Shane, is that you are a father. I cannot imagine the love that a parent has for their child. It is ingrained in us, our most primal instinct to protect our young and our family and our community. It is a true and universal love felt by every human and animal on the entire planet. You, Shane, are one of the billions of parents on the planet who have the gift of knowing this love. And yet you are parroting propaganda from the elites at the top who profit off of tearing families like yours apart. Because of these elites and the propaganda and lies that they spread, there are 150 parents in American Samoa, just like you, who have had to bury their children in tiny caskets under tiny headstones. These parents will likely live for many more years and through many more chapters of their life, and someday they will grow old and gray, and they too will die. I don't know how old these parents will live to be, but what I do know is that none of their kids will ever be older than 4. You claim to care about the family unit, Shane, about how important its integrity is, but these parents and these families were not ripped apart by trans athletes or the gay agenda or any of your other nebulous, juvenile, bigoted boogeymen. These families were ripped apart because they listened to people who said the same things as you. Shane, this isn't about supplements or who built the pyramids. It's that the words that you are saying could kill people. There is no way of knowing for sure that someone has foregone needed medicine or medical attention because of the things that you're saying. But the things that you're saying, the lies and misinformation that you spread, are pushing people towards it. So I ask you this, Shane. If someone listened to you and the things that you told them, and the worst were to happen, would it be worth it? Would that fat commission check be worth it? Could you live with the guilt of being the reason that 2 parents somewhere in the world had to buy a tiny little headstone? You need to stop this, Shane. If not for others, for yourself. The final thing that I want to leave you with here, Shane, is that in this case, at the very least, I pray to whatever God there is that you are a hypocrite, and that you, at the very least, have had or plan to have your children immunized. Because believe me, there is no bank account fat enough, no Instagram following big enough, and no commission check fat enough to outweigh the grief of having to buy a tiny little headstone. I'm done with this fucking video. I have nothing left to say on this. Part 3 is going to be covering more of Shane's creationism. We're going to be talking about biology. It'll be the video with Professor Dave Explains in it, so subscribe to catch that at the live premiere. Chances are, by the time you're watching this video, Part 3 is already out, so go check that out, and if you haven't seen Part 1 yet, go check that one out while you're waiting. And you can also check out my series. Pits. If there is one fossil site in the world that you are familiar with, it is this one, the La Brea Tar Pits located in Los Angeles, California. However, what you may not know is that La Brea means the tar in Spanish, meaning that its name is actually the Tar Pits. This location is an uncontested crown jewel in the fossil record. It provides the single greatest chronology out of almost any fossil site on the planet. Howdy friends, my name is Milo Rossi, and today it is my great pleasure to welcome you behind the scenes at the La Brea Tar Pits.
Well, now I don't know who to look at. Jesus.
What's going on YouTube?
All right.
Today we are here with a face that may be familiar to many, if not all of you, none other than Lindsay Nicole. Lindsay, how you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
Good to be here. I'm happy to finally be in the same place in person. We've done quite a bit together virtually, but today we are here collaboratively at the La Brea Tar Pits. Lindsay, you want to give just a quick introduction of yourself, what you're all about for those that may not know?
Absolutely. I'm Lindsay Nicole. I'm a zoologist and science communicator on YouTube. You can find me at Lindsay Nicole. I focus on all types of animals, weird animals, evolution, prehistory, and all that. And yeah, the Tar Pits is awesome. We're in Los Angeles. That's where I'm from. So I love the Tar Pits, and I'm very excited to be here.
I know, here on Lindsay's home turf. I feel a little out of my element. It's hot in December, which is not how my brain works. And Lindsay, you're using this as part of your History of Life on Earth series, is that correct?
I am, yes. The last episode of the History of Life on Earth that we know of. We're covering the Pleistocene and the Holocene, and that's where we live today. So check it out.
Yeah, so if you want to learn more about the time period as a whole, check out Lindsay's video. I'm going to be going a little more in depth on La Brea Tar Pits. Lindsay, good to be here. Let's get right into it.
Yeah, let's do it.
Awesome. Now, while a fossil bed being in one of the most urban environments in the entire country is pretty unique on its own, the La Brea Tar Pits are famous for many other reasons. One of the most interesting of these is the fact that the La Brea Tar Pits are, as the name would suggest, an asphaltic fossil site. This is the real reason you came back to the Tar Pits. Yeah! That's crazy. Oh yeah, let's get in there. Get a little scoop of that.
There it goes.
Wow, that is bizarre.
Yeah.
Ugh. This is a very unusual type of fossil site where crude oil bubbles to the surface, and it is this crude oil that has preserved immense quantities of fossils. Asphaltic fossil sites are very uncommon, and they typically occur in places that has both a oil or petroleum deposit and some sort of tectonic activity. In these places, crude oil and tar bubbles to the surface, and it is in this crude oil and tar that fossils are preserved. As you can imagine with how specific the conditions needed for an asphaltic fossil site are, it's a very rare thing to find, with only like a dozen of them in the entire world, and hands down the most expansive and best known of these sites is the La Brea Tar Pits in Los Angeles. In this site, the tar pits preserve fossils from between 10 and 40,000 years ago. And because of how many fossils have been recovered and how complete the fossil record is, this site gives us one of the best windows into what life was like in this part of the world at the end of the last glaciation. The fossils that you're probably most familiar from this site include, the charismatic Ice Age animals like saber-toothed tigers, cave bears, mammoths, and giant ground sloths. But there are also hundreds of thousands of fossils of other animals recovered from this site as well, like turtles, birds, and amphibians. Myself and Lindsay Nicole were given the unique opportunity to have a look behind the scenes at this famous site, where we were able to take cameras behind the curtain to see how things actually work here. We got to see where fossils are actively being excavated and seeing the light of day for the first time in 40,000 years, as well as the procedures in the lab where they study and prepare these fossils, and even my personal favorite part, the bone vault, just this massive room that is completely full of shelves covered in bones of every animal that you've dreamed of since you were a little kid. So today, in this slightly different video, we're going to be taking a little bit of a look behind the scenes at the La Brea Tar Pits, and learning from the experts what goes on at this site and what makes it so special. Whoa! We got the diorama, dude. What? We got slime.
So this is very much a first draft, but I just love it so much, and I thought it would be helpful for understanding why we have fossils here. Depending on whether you have asphalt seeping up but no stream channel to bury it, you're probably not going to get fossils there. If you get burial without the asphalt coming up, you might get fossils like a lot of the rest of the area, but where they get chemically turned to stone, like most dinosaur fossils we think of, which we still get here too sometimes, but more often we get the classic, where it's a combination of that burial and that asphalt to just beautifully preserve those fossils. And then sometimes you get burial in a stream channel and then asphalt joins the party later. Part of his fossils are starting to turn to stone, but then asphalt joined the party early enough that part of his fossils are preserved by the asphalt as well.
Right.
And then we just teleported forward to 1924, which we found aerial photos to confirm that this was still oil field while we were excavating here. And then this one I just like because
Something tactile.
This is really nice because then especially when we had kids that were like, hey, we're trying to explain this, it gave them something to engage with while we were explaining.
So the way a tar pit works is kind of grisly. Like I said, the reason a tar pit exists is because it's on top of a petroleum deposit. So petroleum will bubble to the surface and then it begins to evaporate, which leaves behind just sticky tar residue. Now at the time when the tar pits were active and, sucking in saber-toothed tigers and things like that, it was a much cooler and wetter time period in Earth's history. And so many of the tar pits would get covered in water or dust or leaves and stuff like that and obscure them from the animals walking around. So animals would just end up sort of wandering into these tar pits, whether they thought it was a fresh spring of water they could drink from, or they just thought it was part of the ground. When this would happen with large herbivores like ground sloths and mammoths, carnivores would quickly follow because they thought they could get like an easy meal out of it. Seeing a large animal that was either stuck or dead, the carnivores would sort of pile on in after, trying to, eat it, and then they would all get sucked in as well. This has led to a disproportionately high number of mammal carnivore fossils to mammal herbivore fossils recovered from this site. But what I didn't really know until going here is that there's also really extensive fossils of birds as well, which I guess makes sense because they would, land on the water thinking it was water, and then, it wasn't water.
So if you walk through this park after a rainstorm, you don't see this. You don't see a tar seep, you see a pond. You don't have a 18 million person city sucking up all the water.
Yeah.
And so you have, and we know from LA place names, even when the Spanish arrived, it was a lot wetter. Right up the street is La Cienega Boulevard. La Cienega means swamp in Spanish, right? So Rodeo Drive, which is fancy shopping now, that's Rodeo de las Aguas, right? So we know there was a lot more water here even as recently as a couple hundred years ago, but certainly during the Pleistocene.
That is insane, dude.
So this is 404 direwolf skulls.
Wow.
And
that
actual
is ridiculous.
skulls.
Yeah, they're not just casts,
Yeah.
they're actual skulls.
And it's really crazy to see so many in one place because you can really see the variation in each one.
They're different sizes, ages,
Yeah.
sexes. Yeah, I know, looking at the detail of it, where it's some with their teeth missing and some of their teeth worn down.
Yeah, they were very, very, very similar to wolves today in their lifestyle. They were just slightly larger. They weren't like the Game of Thrones dire wolves.
Damn it.
I know.
Oh my god.
Dude, nuts.
What part of the animal are we looking at right here?
Tooth.
Yeah, good and textured. Look
So
at that,
if we look
yeah.
on up here, they only had 4 molars.
Wow.
Pretty insane. But they'd go through 6 sets of these.
Wow.
Could you imagine seeing this?
Dude, yeah, that is just I cannot fathom seeing something alive
That you could walk underneath. You could walk
Yeah.
right underneath it.
Yeah, I know. A little hammock in there. Yeah. After the initial wow of all the cool stuff they just have, on display in the museum, Lindsay and I met up with our connection at the tar pits and got to see the lab where they're actually processing these fossils.
This is a pretty nice office. You got a good view.
That's for sure.
Wow. Who's this guy?
So this is Zed. This is a Colombian mammoth.
Wow.
So our largest species of mammal that we have here at the tar pits, the Colombian mammoth.
Yeah.
So we have an extremely large collection. We have around 3.5 million specimens in our collection, and we only have 35 Colombian mammoth individuals. And this is a really unique and special one because of the 35 skulls that we have, this is the only one that's really yielded bone touch.
Wow, really?
Exactly.
That's
So
interesting.
those tusks are actually on display in the Manatee Museum. You can see them over there. The tusks are really interesting because you can do a cross section of a tusk, and it has rings similar like you would see in a tree. and you can actually count those rings, and they have yearly deposition, so you can determine the age as well. But they also go down to daily deposition, so you can even see if the animal was under stress or things like that. So teeth are really very informative. Love teeth.
How like disarticulated do the skeletons typically become in the pits? Because like, you know, when I think about an animal falling in tar, I'm kind of like, oh, it's got to be mostly there. It's all kind of intact. But you mentioned this is the one of the few or the only one that has both
Yes.
tusks. Why is that?
So there's a lot of activities in the deposits. So we have a lot of microbial activity in the asphalt deposits, and it breaks down soft tissue. That's why we don't have any soft tissue remains here at the tar pits. So it breaks that down quite quickly, and what that does is it has the specimen dissociate and the material move away from each other. Z is a bit of a different story. So we often have this entrapment scenario that you were just talking about here at the tar pits. But sometimes we have a different way of how fossils get preserved here at asphalt. But what most likely happens with this specimen is that he came to grief close to a stream channel. Ended up in a stream channel, quickly got covered with sediment, which helps to preserve the skeleton and keep all the remains together. And asphalt came in as a secondary preserving agent at a later stage.
And so people often say, how do you know it was in a stream channel? Well, as amazing as the large fossils are, and as charismatic as a saber-toothed cat or a direwolf or a mammoth is, large animals have large home ranges. But to really understand depositional context and to understand the environment in which it found itself, what we look at is when we remove the sediment around the specimens, we actually keep it and sort it under a microscope because we look for microfossils in there. And if I can just point out one microfossil, do you see this white here by my finger? That is freshwater shell. All the microfossils around Z, freshwater limpet, freshwater shell, everything indicates an aquatic environment, which supports the hypothesis of it being in a stream channel. But you'll notice all these cones in our park because the asphalt will just come up where it wants to. It follows the path of least resistance. And that's probably what happened here is at a later stage, asphalt came in, started covering the specimen, and then halted that permineralization process.
Since the bones here aren't like fully fossilized, is there different information that you can get from these bones that you may not be able to get from other specimens?
So we have access to collagen and protein that is usually not that easy to find. We haven't had ancient DNA found from our specimens yet.
From any at all?
None.
Okay.
None whatsoever. There's a lot of theories on possibly why that could be. Is the asphalt an agent of decay for ancient DNA? But then one must also remember that ancient DNA is a very sensitive material, so it doesn't preserve always, right? It's in very unique circumstances. But yes, that's the one thing that hasn't been found here is the ancient DNA. But our lab is a very unique lab. So apart from being a lab that engages with the public and brings the science into the museum, and we're actually the largest exhibit here, we're also the only lab in the world that does asphaltic fossil preparation. I'm not sure how familiar you are with paleontological preparation, but usually when you watch these documentaries, it's people using zip scribe or pneumatic tools and they flake it away. We have to use chemicals. So we use degreasing solvents. So we actually look and see what do car mechanics use and what do they use in the aerospace industry. It's something we looked at. Because the asphalt that we are dealing with is a byproduct of crude oil. So underneath our feet, we are actually on top of the Salt Lake oil field. And what happens is when there's tectonic activity and there are fissures that open, the oil underneath the ground moves up these cracks, and when they make contact with the atmosphere, what happens is the lighter elements dissipate into the air and the heavier elements stay behind in the form of the sticky asphalt. So think about a popsicle. If you just leave it on the table, it turns into a liquid, but then when it dries up, you just have those sticky remnants of the sugar.
So it's a similar concept to that. And so what we're dealing with is oil. We have to dissolve and soften the oil so that we can remove it from the specimen gently and carefully without doing any damage, but also keeping in mind that even though you think you're looking at one fossil, you might be looking at many more because we have those microfossils embedded.
As you can probably imagine, a fossil coming out of a giant pit of tar where it's been buried for 30,000 years is covered in tar. And so, of course, the paleontologists and scientists working at this site have to figure out creative ways to get all of the tar off of these fossils.
This is usually what it looks like. You can see a little bit of that brown bone underneath it. And then this is what we call matrix. So matrix is, it's the composition of the sediment, the sand, the rocks, the pebbles, and any other biological organic material that got enclosed and encased in this preservation. And then you'll notice all our tools are soft tools. We use Q-tips, paint brushes, and yes, we do use our toothbrushes to clean their teeth as well. And the reason for why we use this is because it's a delicate tool to use on the specimen, so that if we push too hard or something is resistant, the tool is going to be the thing that suffers instead of damaging the specimen itself. We use degreasing solvent called Novex 73DE. It's used in the medical industry actually, in a vapor form to remove fats and lipids from delicate surgical equipment. And we don't use it in a vapor form, we use it here in a liquid form. All fossils from La Brea tar pits have this characteristic brown coloration to it. It's often referred to as the La Brea brown or the La Brea patina. And it's as a result of the staining from the asphalt. It's a gradual technique, and we are quite meticulous about it because, again, like I said, we want to make sure that we preserve anything in there that's of microfossil material, because the microfossils are very important in telling us about this location. And then here I just have a part of a turtle shell.
Oh, whoa.
So,
oh, that's so sick.
I know. And then you can see it
It's
broke.
a little puzzle piece. Yeah.
Exactly. We do a lot of 3D puzzle building here. And you'll see it's still got some of that asphalt on it. But here's all the matrix we removed.
Oh, so you keep that with it.
We keep it. Exactly.
Gotcha. That's cool.
And then one thing you'll notice is, do you see we've got the information of the grid and level from where it came out in the deposit written over here? And so what we do is, once we finish the preparation of all these specimens that you see around you, we come back and we harvest all the matrix associated with these deposits. We then put it in a vat of solvent to remove the asphalt, and then can take it over to the microscope and sort for microfossil material over there.
But this isn't an application of a solvent like you're, cleaning your kitchen floors or degreasing industrial equipment. So the researchers at La Brea had to dig pretty deep to figure out what the best products were to use on these fossils to not damage them.
Yeah, so I mean, this is even started a little bit before I came here. So also Stevie Morley helped us a lot with this. And this is, Stevie picked 6 different solvents with all these different properties just to figure out which one is best, the way things have been done in the past. It started in 1913 with boiling kerosene, which is flammable and you're boiling it. And so, just over time, chemistry improves. And so we can get all these different products to test out. And we just found, okay, we're looking at kind of a nice sweet spot in terms of the chemicals. We're looking for something that evaporates very quickly so it doesn't stay in the bone. So some of these that people use a lot, like D-limonene, is that orange smell you get in cleaners. It's like a lot of household cleaners. It evaporates so slowly, it's still in the specimens that we've prepared with it. So you can actually years later pick it up and still get that orange smell. And so it's just, I mean, but
That's awesome.
it's lingering in the bone and it's causing it to crumble and literally like damaging it over time. And then the other part was, how do we use it?
Oh, I see. So this is the difference between soaking it in a solution and doing what you were doing there with the little brush.
Exactly.
And I mean, it looks better too. Look at that.
Absolutely.
It's amazing. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Seeing a giant mammoth skull on the floor when walking into the lab was pretty mind-blowing, and that's because, obviously you'd be hard-pressed to find something as exciting from the last ice age as a mammoth. It is far from the only or even most important fossils recovered from this site. As big as Zed might be, there's actually more information that can be gleaned from the caked-on sediments around him.
I like to say when in the lab that all sizes matter. So not just Zed, which you could trip over, but also these little microfossils.
Are you sorting through the fossils with this?
I am sorting. One of the volunteers designed this particular mapping situation where you can look at like this is what it looks like, right? But when you put it under the microscope, you can tell what part is sediment, what part is bone, what part goes with plants.
Wow, that's amazing.
What parts are insect parts. You know, and then we get shells too, parts of shell as well, which gives another piece of information about this area, which is quite fascinating. And then, of course, there's always a part that you don't recognize.
The mysteries.
So that goes here, that goes here, and then we run to Stephanie or Connie and say, what is this? What is this? Informational and fun.
People often think the only thing we do in this lab is we just remove the matrix, or we just remove the asphalt, and that's it. But this lab actually has a big component of conservation work that we do as well.
Many of the fossils that end up getting recovered from the tar pits are not complete. This leaves researchers with the amazing task of getting to try and piece back together these tar-caked fossils like a giant jigsaw puzzle. What is this?
Upper jaw of the horse.
Wow.
Yeah. And you can tell it was in many, many, many pieces. There are more pieces over here. There's that's the skull.
Wow, look at that.
That we've been working on.
How long has this been taking so far?
Well, this came out of collections, and I've been working on it. Well, let's see. Okay, thank you. It is, let's see, it was found in, that's its passport, in 1978.
Oh,
okay,
wow.
And so they had different ways of conserving it at that time, and they used Elmer's glue or white glue, but that doesn't have longevity. So I've been cleaning the glue out and using our paraloid here to glue some of it together, but also something wonderful called kozu paper, which is very strong. It's made from the mulberry tree. And it's the bark part of the bark, and it's very, very fibrous. And the inside of this guy is just, you can see, yeah.
Little bandages.
Wow. That's right. And this support here is pretty critical. We didn't know if that would hold or not, but the kozu paper it's 2 levels of kozu paper here, and it is really very strong, and it's done very well.
I see, so the paper is something that, it's not just adhesive on the broken joint, it's like, you know,
right.
putting adhesive around it as well and holding it together a little stronger.
Correct.
Before heading into the big secret fossil bunker, we got a chance to go out into the field to see where these fossils are actually being recovered from. There you go. Very signature, Lindsay. We've incorporated the mic into the bucket hat.
Oh, yes.
Smells like tar. It smells like someone's doing road work.
Well, that's
bizarre.
That's a tar pit right there, right?
Pretty unassuming. Well, that was the thing, right?
That's how they got stuck.
Yeah,
right?
I guess so. If they knew it was a tar pit, they wouldn't have
That was the problem in the first place.
That is a cellar.
Like you when you wake up in the morning.
Oh, where am I?
Yeah, really. You know, I think I figured out what my favorite part of this is. It's people opening gates that are otherwise locked.
Gates in here feel like Jurassic Park.
It really does. You set this up, it looks so nice. It's like a little display case. That's fancy.
But especially with so much wind that we had lately, you can see it's made this fine layer of clay from some of these sediments kind of go across the surface. So I tried to sweep up some of the areas that I wanted to show you guys so it would show up nicer.
So sick. That is insane. What is that? Yeah.
So welcome to Project 23. Project 23 came about when the art museum that shares the park with us several years ago built an underground parking garage. And if you dig underground next to one of the largest urban deposits of fossils in the world, hopefully no one's surprised that we found more fossils. But there was so much material and they kind of wanted to finish their construction ever. But we're lucky that we're in California when we are. There's a lot of legislation in the books that helps protect these non-renewable resources that belong to everybody. So they already had a team on site with a construction team who specialize in going before, during, and after the big equipment, looking for fossils. And we're spoiled when our fossils tend to come in clumps due to just the way the stream channels used to work their way down here. And so they were able to isolate the entire sections of Earth with particular fossil deposits, build boxes around them with the same company that helps move live trees by building boxes around the root balls. And they came over in 23 boxes, which is why we call it Project 23. So we have right here in front that I have my lights on. I was trying to make pretty for you guys. So this one's the elbow end of a saber-toothed cat humerus, so the upper front leg. That's a little groove that the crescent wrench of the ulna, the lower front leg, would plug into. So that's that action happening here. We've got the rib of a nice big herbivore, probably a horse or a bison. Back here, I have the lower jaw of one of our big paramylodon ground sloths. Those guys they're like rhino-sized, not around anymore. But again, that's why they're ground sloths, not tree sloths. Over on that side, a lot of really big bird bones. And in this box already, I have at least 2 gymnodipts, or big condors, and one really well, good-shaped territorn. It's our largest of our birds. We just met, but do you mind holding my hand for a moment? It's about that big wingspan. Oh, yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah. I was like, you're about my height? Yeah, not worse. And so that's about how big those birds are. And then this one over here, again, in a pile of saber-toothed cat ribs and direwolf hip bones and lots of sticks and branches. We've got this arch here and kind of this shape that I promise is there. But that's kind of a flat shape that's actually a shoulder blade of one of these big sloths. Our classic variety pack.
What is kind of the layout of this? Because in the middle there's this really big cluster of bones, and then over here, unless I'm not interpreting it correctly, this looks like there's almost nothing.
You're exactly correct.
Okay.
You're exactly correct. Good observational skills. Congratulations. And that's also why, if you notice, that area is more worked on so far. Right now what we're trying to do is kind of take slices and work our way towards this so that we can see some of the geological profiles. Basically look at that layer cake and see what it tells us about how these deposits formed.
Gotcha.
Because no game of Twister gets you this tangled up.
Yeah.
This is all biological and geological forces working together, and it's complicated.
Yeah, yeah.
And in the past, we kind of summarized it in a way that's kind of gotten to the point that it's not terribly accurate anymore. And so we're really trying to collect some good data and using some new technology that helps us visualize things in a different way, 3D computer modeling systems to try to make that change through time and how these deposits formed more visually and sometimes kinetically accessible. So we're kind of slicing in that way, but we're using more hammers and chisels over there and moving to things like dental tools once we're in here.
Is this clay? Is this a different material than the asphalt?
A lot of those areas are clay. That's also what a lot of this dust that has blown up on top of here is from. But there's also some areas over here. Let's see if I can. That's basically,
wow.
If you were to make pavement.
Yeah, it's like hitting a parking lot.
Yes, because what they do for that is they take refined asphalt and mix it with a very particular mix of sands and gravels and that kind of thing so that it cures into blacktop pavement. This kind of nature-made pavement right here.
Ah, gotcha.
Which means it's less likely to have fossils in it, and fortunately also doesn't. So
a little less work.
That makes my life easier. And then these ones are copies of fossils that I brought out just to make it easier, because I have a lot of practice seeing little bits of things and seeing what it is, but this right here I'm also just excited about, so that's why I brought it. So we're looking at just this piece. Exactly, very good. It's a vertebrae. This one's also saber-toothed cat. It is a second cervical vertebrae. So from the neck, this little round bit right here is actually the part in which your world turns.
Wow.
And you can see just kind of that little backside of it just sneaking up out of that next grid. And what's fun is this kind of little mountain range over here is just the top of the third cervical vertebrae. So the next one down, that's kind of sitting right behind it here. So just like we're seeing these bones that belong next to each other in the skeleton, next to each other in the deposit, we're seeing that again over here. And normally with something as common as a saber-toothed cat, I wouldn't be able to say with any kind of confidence they're from the same individual. Usually saber-toothed cats are second most common big animal, so they just get jumbled up. But I've got my fingers crossed.
Yeah.
So that's why I was like, in case this does end up being a really cool individual that's important for science, I want you guys a chance to see it now.
What are the twist ties for?
So these particular ones are where a piece of fossil, we are human, we make mistakes.
Yeah,
someone broke it. And to keep this together, so that it's easier for it to go together in the laboratory and them to repair it, there's many different ways we could flag it, but I've learned especially because it's going to be months before I get to this particular spot.
Yeah.
I want it to just literally physically be there so that I don't have a chance to forget it later.
Yeah. Well, what is this big flat thing? Did you already say what that was?
I didn't, because there's a family-sized pack of Oreos that we've all been betting on to see it's either part of a shoulder blade or part of a hip. But we won't know until we get it out and look at the other side. I've got my fingers crossed, but I don't know.
Wow.
This is like a puzzle, like trying to dig things out of other things. And how long is this taking you so far?
This one we're actually only just back to after a hiatus. I've been very, very excited to get back to. I haven't dug in here since January of 2020, so it's been a long time. We've worked on many other things, but this was my baby. But we originally opened it. It's been on and off, probably the most out of our fossil deposits, just because it's such a tidy deposit that's really good when we need for very specific projects, if we're doing like 3D scanning, that sort of thing. But this one we originally opened in 2013.
Wow.
And so
long time
about here. Paleontology is a science of lots of patience, but at the same time, I'm so spoiled rotten that like every single grain of sand I move, I get to be the first person ever in the history of everything to see behind that grain of sand and that grain of sand. And I usually don't have to wait long before it's another fossil. And it's not always a big thing. So like the lizard scales, mouse toes, insect legs, seed pods, freshwater snail shells, all those tinier fossils that are around these larger ones that are helping to tell kind of a more holistic story.
After a full day at the site, my brain was pretty saturated with interesting tidbits of information, but not too saturated to have a look at the bone room.
So Emily, how many fossils are in here? Like how many bones?
Well, so we have, we think, around 4 to 5 million fossils. Only about 600,000 of those are fully cataloged and digitized. And this is our primary range, which is like our best curated section of the collection. So within here, I don't know, 500,000 to a million, maybe? I don't know. 500,000. Scientists have actually gone through and quantified sort of the types of injuries that different species get. So saber-toothed cats get a lot of lower back injuries, which is consistent with this idea that they're like leaping onto prey and grappling them to the ground. And meanwhile, dire wolves get a lot of the same injuries that we see in modern wolves, and that are sort of chasing down predators. They get injured in their feet and their heads, which is sort of like the kind of trampling injuries we see in modern hunters.
Just so many. Yeah, look, it's just.
It's like any drawer you pull out. Pretty much most of this aisle is just direwolf skulls.
Jesus.
Like
there's 400 outside.
Wow.
Yeah, and we have so many direwolves we don't even keep the rest of the body in this part of our collection. It's just skulls.
Wow. Oh my God.
So crazy. And they're arranged by pit, right? So these are just direwolf skulls from pit 13, right? Like this whole wall, pit 13, direwolf skull, pit 13, pit 13. Like it's all. I mean, there's hundreds of direwolves just in this one pit, right?
That is ridiculous. I can't believe that this was like a real living thing. This isn't just like a cast. This was like an actual.
That was inside the head.
Yeah, that is insane.
And that cat was here. Like it walked right where you're standing, right here, because it got stuck here. I mean, that's the amazing thing. Like this, like a lot of museums you go to and they have cool stuff, but it's stuff they went somewhere else and like dug it up and brought it back. Everything we have here is, with the exception of like the modern comparative collection, is like a fossil that was dug up right here in this park.
Unbelievable.
We have these like very unique challenges being specifically in the city of Los Angeles, because everybody comes to Los Angeles expecting to see things that people made up, like Hollywood and Disneyland and Universal Studios, and a lot of people come here and they think that we're fake. Really? They think we're like one of these like fake LA, because like a tar pit, like what's a tar pit? It's so bizarre. You know, there's only. It's great. I mean, people think the asphalt's fake. They think like the people that you talk to in the lab and excavations that they're actors, or sometimes even robots.
Oh my God.
People have this very high level belief about what Hollywood can do and what you can do in LA. So I know Sean, I don't know if you talked to him earlier, but he told me he was working on the total station, which we use to measure the bones, and you have to like be very steady with it, like to get it sort of calibrated just right. And so he had been sort of like very still for a long time. He stood up and like somebody screamed because they're like, "You're real." He's like,
Yeah,
measuring the
I'm doing my job, thanks.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
This is good. These are some mammoth or mastodon, this mammoth femur here. And this is a really good example of what we call pitware, which are these beautiful sort of polished grooves we get on some of the bones in some of our pits. And we think it's caused by bones rubbing against other bones or against rocks.
Really?
As like those methane bubbles are coming up for hundreds of years, and it just forms these like
just
beautiful,
very slight
you know,
rubs.
so they're not cut marks. Nobody was like
that would be my
butchering
first
this
guess,
mammoth,
is
but
butcher marks.
they're just these this cool example
That's
of pitware,
really
probably
interesting.
more common in deposits that also had more water going
Yeah.
through them.
That's crazy. Yeah, that would totally throw me if I saw that. That's wild. The folks at La Brea were amazingly helpful, and I'm very grateful for them helping set this up. And it was really great to be able to actually meet Lindsay in person. You know, her and I have done a lot of work together in the past. She's one of like the first creator friends I really made, and so it was really neat to be able to, you know, do something together and take up the same airspace. The La Brea tar pits are a discovery that was one of the things that got me interested in paleoecology and history as a child. And so being able to actually come here today, not only to finally see the sites in person, but to be able to get a little behind the scenes look and bring it to all of you has been an actual dream come true. So I'd like to give a huge thank you to the staff here at the La Brea Tar Pits for welcoming me, Lindsay, and my crew to come film here and share this all with you. If you ever find yourself in Los Angeles, California, and are looking for something other to do than the glitz and glam of, you know, Hollywood, I really recommend you come here to the La Brea Tar Pits. It is an amazing location, and the only thing better than seeing these sites through your screen is actually seeing it in person. I'd like to give a huge thank you to all of you for watching. As always, any interaction on this video helps me continue doing what I do here for free, and I'd like to give an extra special thank you to patrons who make what I do here possible. Patrons get early ad-free access to all of my videos, and all of your names will be in the credits of these videos as a small token of my appreciation. Remember to stay curious, stay inquisitive, and most importantly, don't fall in, idiot. Yo.
Oh, hell yeah.
I'm just saying, new merch.
Of the Red Sea is something that, by all measures, shouldn't exist. A phenomenon so strange it's rewriting what we know about the origins of life on Earth, and perhaps even outside of it. In 2020, the Ocean Explorer research ship launched a submersible into the depths of the Red Sea. After 8 hours of scouring the abyssal plain, they had found nothing. Just a lifeless desert in the perpetual darkness. But moments before they were about to give up and return to the surface, the submersible's headlights caught something in the distance. A murky shape, about 20 meters wide, which looked like a dark mirror laying flat on the seabed. Squinting, they made out what appeared to be a thick fog hanging over it. And as they got closer, they realized what they were seeing should have been impossible. The surface of that giant mirror wasn't glass or rock or even sand. It was water. How could that be? They were already underwater. But it was right there in front of their very eyes. What appeared to be an underwater lake at the bottom of the ocean, encircled by a beach with gentle, slow-motion waves lapping against the shore. Only a handful of humans have ever seen this sight in person. And we now know something that makes it even more eerie. Any creature who dares to venture below the surface of that strange water never comes back. And yet, down here in the deathly darkness, there is something unthinkable. A strange, primitive form of life, existing in a way completely alien to what we ever thought possible on Earth. But now, in 2025, thanks to a series of remarkable discoveries, this surreal underwater environment is helping to revolutionize our understanding of how life can exist on Earth. and maybe beyond. So where did this mysterious underwater lake come from? What could possibly live here? And whatever it is, could it be the key to understanding how life began? I'm James Stewart and you're watching Astrum Earth. Join me in this video as we journey beneath the surface and come face to face with whatever is hiding down there. Now, I should start off by saying, despite making giant leaps in our understanding of underwater lakes over the last few years, Ocean Explorer was not the first to find one. The earliest reference to an underwater lake dates back to the 1st of March 1964, and it's a tiny article, barely taking up a quarter of a page, buried deep in a scientific journal. The author, a humble English oceanographer called Henry Sharnock, had found what he called anomalous bottom water, 2 kilometers under the Red Sea. I like to imagine the wonder and perhaps even the terror that Henry felt when research indicated it was possible for a lake to exist at the bottom of the ocean. What it was or why it existed, he had no idea. All he knew was that it was there and that it should have been impossible. Without knowing it, Henry had stumbled on something that would shape how we understand life on our planet forever. While he could only guess at the water's origin, Henry spotted one intriguing detail. It was incredibly salty. Far saltier than the water above it. This seemingly minor observation gives us the first clue to finding out what these bizarre formations actually are. It seems impossible. How does a lake in the middle of an ocean exist? One thing I am not salty about is my choice of skincare. We've once again partnered with our friends at Geology to bring you skincare that doesn't just float, it makes the more dense it gets. That's why you might be able to get routine shipped and delivered right to your door. And the best part is you can soak up 70% off your personalised trial set. So what are you waiting for? Wade on in. And unlike fish wandering into a brine pool, you'll definitely come back to Geology. See, the more salt dissolves in the volume of water, the more dense it gets. That's why you might be able to float on your back in the sea, but not in a swimming pool. The higher salt content in the seawater makes it more dense, so relatively speaking, you become less dense and rise to the surface. It's the same with an underwater lake. That incredibly salty water is more dense than the seawater around it. So it sits at the very bottom of the ocean, collecting in the natural depressions on the sea floor. In fact, the water here is so salty and so dense that a submersible literally bounces off the surface like a trampoline. Theoretically, if you were able to breathe and survive the pressure down there, the surface of the lake would feel like a giant waterbed. Scientists call these underwater lakes brine pools, and they can stretch up to 20 kilometers in length, forming majestic lakes, rivers, and even underwater waterfalls. But even more curiously, they can reach hundreds of meters in depth. So you might be wondering, what stops the brine from just spreading out and mixing with the surrounding seawater? How is there such a clear surface line? After all, if you were to add a splash of brine to a glass of fresh water, it wouldn't sink and collect at the bottom of the glass, would it? It would just mix in with the water, right? So what stops this from happening at the bottom of the ocean? Well, the answer comes down to 2 distinct natural processes working together in a unique way. The first has the complex name of double diffusive convection. And once again, Henry's observations gave us the first clue of what was happening here. That anomalous water he noticed wasn't just unusually salty, but unusually warm. So imagine, at the very bottom of the sea, you have this anomalous water that is both warm and salty. Directly above it, you have water that is cooler and less salty. This means that both salt and heat in the bottom water want to spread upwards to the top water. In theory, this should mean that the extra salty water just dissolves away and gets lost in the rest of the ocean. But here's the key thing. Heat spreads 100 times faster than salt, so naturally it gets there first. This means that the water directly above the surface of the lake is warmer than usual, which causes it to rise into the water above. Meanwhile, on the other side, the water directly below the surface of the lake gets cooler, which makes it sink down into the lake. As a result, the top layer of the lake wants to move further down into the lake rather than up out of it. And the seawater directly above it wants to move up and away from the lake rather than down into it. This double diffusive convection is what creates that sharp boundary between brine and seawater, which causes a clear tide line to form, resulting in the surreal appearance of an underwater lake. But if you're especially eagle-eyed, you might have noticed something wrong with that model. Even if there is a clear-cut threshold between brine and regular water, there is still salt going across that line. So effectively, the lake is constantly losing brine to the water above. In theory then, the lake should vanish, like a rock pool evaporating over time. And that's where the second natural process comes in. See, underwater lakes aren't just puddles of salty water, they're constantly in flux. Just as brine is continually vanishing into the water above, it's also being replenished from underneath. The lake exists only because of the delicate natural balance between these two opposing processes, the first trying to shrink the lake and the other to grow it. So where is it being replenished from? And what is this seemingly endless source of warm, salty water coming from deep in the earth? You may have heard of plate tectonics, but to answer this question, we need to understand salt tectonics. Scientists scratched their heads about this for decades, until eventually the answer began to reveal itself. Across the entire world, we've found brine pools in just 3 places. And these 3 places all have one thing in common: a weird geological feature which allows these pools to form. The first we've mentioned already, the Red Sea. The other 2 are the Gulf of Mexico and the Mediterranean Sea. So what's the underlying feature they have in common? They're all bodies of water that aren't giant oceans, perhaps? They're all partly enclosed? Well, that's part of the answer. But here's the key thing. At some point in their history, all 3 of these water bodies were cut off from the ocean. During the Jurassic period, the Gulf of Mexico was sealed off from the Atlantic Ocean by a narrow strip of land. More than 100 million years later, so was the Mediterranean. And by this point, the Red Sea had also been shut off from the waters of the Indian Ocean. When these seas got closed off from the ocean, they essentially became giant basins. With no new water flowing in, the remaining water in those basins evaporated over time, leaving behind something unusual: a thick residue of salt. Over the following millions of years, that salt residue was buried by layers of sediment, which pushed it deeper and deeper into the earth. So when those dried up basins eventually rejoined the oceans and filled with seawater again, they created a unique set of geological conditions. Above you have a sea, and below you have an enormous pile of salt. It's only because of the sediment layer in between that the salt doesn't come into contact with the seawater. But you might be able to guess what happens next. As the sediment keeps piling up over time and the salt gets buried deeper into the Earth's crust, something extraordinary happens. The sediment on top gets so heavy that it begins to squash the salt underneath, which forces it to shift and move around. This process, known as salt tectonics, causes warping and cracking in the sediment layer, which allows seawater to seep down over time and mix with the ancient salt below. This forms an ultra-concentrated brine deep down in the earth. As the sediment continues to move around, that deep underground brine, warmed by the Earth's heat, gets squeezed up into the ocean and settles on the ocean floor. Now, at last, finally, we've got ourselves an underwater lake. But brine doesn't just sit in lakes, waiting for its next victim to enter its salty domain. Brine can also flow underwater too. During a dive in 2018, the remotely operated vehicle that was part of the NOAA expedition to the Gulf of Mexico peered over a low rise in the sea floor, gazing towards the sediment-lined depression that lay below. It spotted a small pool, filled with the dark blue water we're accustomed to seeing with brine falls, accompanied by the graveyard of dead mussels and bright white shells that had fallen victim to it. But as the camera panned up, away from the pool, it captured something even more dramatic than the brine pool itself. Described by NOAA as long blue-grey-black streaks of stained sediment, juxtaposed against the tan-coloured slope above the brine pool. Tracing the sediment path upwards, brine appeared to be flowing from above, down the slope and into the pool below. What they had found was an undersea brine waterfall. It's possible this particular waterfall began to form over 180 million years ago during the Jurassic period. Subsequently, it has cut upwards towards the sea floor in columns and ridges known as diapirs. The concentrated brine fluid, much denser than salt water as we've discussed, can flow onto the sea floor. The diapirs act like channels, directing the brine towards the low-lying areas it occupies and creating the waterfall. But what manner of creature could possibly survive down here, if indeed anything can survive at all? Phew, okay, so now we know what these underwater lakes are and where they come from. Let's dive into the real question. What is lurking down there, and what does it mean for us? At a first glance, the conditions don't exactly seem ideal for life. Unsettlingly, scientists found the shorelines littered with the corpses of fish, crabs, lobsters, and eels. What they didn't know is that some of those corpses have been there for decades, preserved in the super salty water like an underwater mass grave of mummified sea creatures. But they soon realised what was happening. Whenever a fish or eel passed by, which admittedly was quite a rare sight on the deep abyssal plain, scientists noticed they mostly avoided the briny water. And when they did wander below the surface, they rarely came back. Within a few seconds of diving below the lake, they were struck by violent convulsions. Fish writhed uncontrollably, and eels wrenched themselves in knots. This toxic shock is caused by the extreme level of salt, and it's the fate of any unlucky creature that ventures too deep into the lake. Once it strikes, their only hope is to rise above the surface into the familiar ocean water above. Most, however, are not so lucky. Because of these extreme levels of salt, underwater lakes are also anoxic, meaning there is no oxygen for life to survive. At least, not as we know it. And if that weren't inhospitable enough, the salty anoxic water is also loaded with toxic methane, which should surely snuff out any remaining chance of life. You would really think this is the worst place on Earth to live, wouldn't you? A toxic hot tub of death, miles below the ocean's surface. No oxygen, no light, alone in the perpetual darkness of the deep sea abyss. And yet there is life, a host of fantastical creatures living in one of the most extreme habitable environments on Earth. Vast colonies of bright green tube worms stretch for hundreds of meters in all directions. Giant 100-year-old mussels packed tightly around the shores of the lake. This mussel beach is home to a carnival of shrimps, snails, weird squat lobsters, and jelly-like crabs. Even larger predators like fish, octopuses, and cutthroat eels come to the lake in search of food, like a watering hole on the African savanna. But most successfully of all, hagfish. These slimy eel-shaped fish lurk on the water's edge, waiting for unsuspecting prey to wander into the brine. The moment that toxic shock takes hold, the hagfish swoops in and snatches their body for food. These hagfish are ancient creatures, even older than dinosaurs, often called living fossils. Even larger predators like fish, octopuses, and cutthroat eels come to the lake in search of food, like a watering hole on the African savanna. But most successfully of all, hagfish. These slimy eel-shaped fish lurk on the water's edge, waiting for unsuspecting prey to wander into the brine. The moment that toxic shock takes hold, the hagfish swoops in and snatches their body for food. These hagfish are ancient creatures, even older than dinosaurs, often called living fossils. They're strikingly similar to the very first vertebrates to appear on Earth hundreds of millions of years ago. But recently, scientists noticed something even more curious about them. They are the only animals that seem to be immune to the toxic effects of the lake. While all others die in seconds, hagfish come and go as they please, diving into the lake to catch their food. This, among other things, is a mystery yet to be solved. Even more staggering than how our hagfish thrives down here is how the ecosystem itself does, because it involves a toxic gas. So how on earth does this alien ecosystem actually survive? Not only is there no oxygen, extreme salinity, and a cocktail of toxic gases, there is also no sun. In fact, the submersible's headlight is the first light that has shone here since the ocean was formed. Before deep-sea ecosystems like these were discovered, scientists thought all life was powered by the sun. Green plants soak up the sun's energy and turn it into food through photosynthesis. These plants, which are then eaten by animals, form the base of the food chain. Oddly enough, this applies even in the deep ocean where the sun doesn't reach. Life here still survives on morsels of food that drift down from the surface, a marine snow made of dead plankton, sea plants and other food, all of which derive their energy from the sun. But when researchers first stumbled upon brine pool environments, it was clear that this was something different. An oasis of life completely independent from the sun. Instead, these creatures seem to have their own mysterious source of life-supporting energy. So if it's not the sun, what do they live on? To find the answer, we need to look inside the mussels that cluster around the shores of the lake. Under a microscope, scientists found that the interiors of their shells were packed with bacteria. Now, these weren't ordinary bacteria like the kind we see every day. These were specialized bacteria with one extraordinary ability, which holds the key to the survival of the entire ecosystem. They can turn chemicals into food. The specific chemical is methane, and fortunately for them, brine pools are loaded with it. This is called chemosynthesis. Just as green plants turn sunlight into food through photosynthesis, these bacteria can do the same thing with methane spewing out from deep in the earth. So unlikely as it may seem, the toxic soup, which kills almost any animal that touches it, is actually the very thing that keeps them alive. Just as plant photosynthesis is the basis of life for all animals in the sun, these chemosynthetic bacteria turn the toxic methane in the pools into the lifeblood of an entire ecosystem. The bacteria themselves live deep in the gills of the mussels, both depending on the other for survival. In return for supplying them with energy, the mussels protect the bacteria from grazers and filter feeders. At the same time, they also provide a shelter to the shrimps, lobsters and crabs that live and feed amongst them. Such an abundance of life in the middle of a vast and otherwise barren abyssal plain, totally independent of the sun's energy, astounded the scientists who first found it. In fact, it seemed to them that these ancient life forms were a window into how life might have first begun. And now, in 2025, scientists increasingly wonder whether nearly 4 billion years ago, the first life on Earth might have appeared in an environment just like this. Previously, it was a very different story. In a scrawled letter from 1871, Charles Darwin suggested that life first appeared in, as he puts it, some warm little pond with all sorts of ammonia and phosphoric salts. While it might seem so at a glance, Darwin's little pond was certainly not an underwater one, but rather a shallow tidal pool with heat, light, and electricity present. This gave rise to the popular primordial soup theory, which imagined life was born in a warm, nutrient-rich rock pool, spectacularly flashed into being by a bolt of lightning. This idea persisted for almost a century. But in the late 1900s, when we discovered deep-sea chemosynthetic environments like brine pools, everything we thought we knew about life's origins was turned on its head. If life could clearly survive without the sun, then could it have started in a similar way? The first of these chemosynthetic environments to be found wasn't actually a brine pool, but something called a hydrothermal vent. Hydrothermal vents are enormous smoking chimneys at the bottom of the deep ocean, spewing out torrents of superheated chemical soup from deep in the earth. Much like brine pools, around these vents, scientists found an abundance of life, surviving not from the sun's energy, but from the energy in that chemical soup, harvested by colonies of chemosynthetic bacteria. The discovery was groundbreaking. Even today, more than 50 years after they were first discovered, the conventional view says that hydrothermal vents are the most likely site for the very first life on Earth. But now there's another contender. Before brine pools were discovered, it was inconceivable that life could survive in such extremely salty conditions. But in recent years, the uncovering of rich bacterial and complex life there widens the goalposts for how and where life can survive. And there's one even more tantalizing piece of evidence that points towards a brine pool-like environment as the potential cradle of life. We know life almost certainly appeared somewhere in the ocean between 3.5 and 4 billion years ago. But here's the interesting thing. Scientists think Earth's primordial oceans at the time were number 1, poor in oxygen, number 2, rich in methane, and number 3, most intriguingly of all, extremely salty. What else is poor in oxygen, rich in methane, and extremely salty? A brine pool. What this means is the brine pool environment is remarkably similar to the conditions in Earth's ancient oceans at the exact time life began. That's why scientists who study them think they might be the best analogue we have of the place where life first began. And to take this a step further, could these alien environments guide the ongoing search for life beyond Earth? While this, after all, is a channel about Earth, not space, let's just take a moment to imagine. If some environment similar to brine pools were to exist elsewhere in the solar system, or even beyond that, it would be as good a place as any to find life. Two of the most likely contenders are Europa, a moon of Jupiter, and Enceladus, a moon of Saturn. This is because beneath their icy crust, they both have vast underground oceans of liquid water. What's more, these oceans are likely as salty as the oceans on early Earth, potentially creating similar conditions to those where life began on Earth. Before the discovery of deep-sea chemosynthetic environments like brine pools, these subterranean oceans would have been written off as unsuitable for life. This is because the layer of crust above blocks out the sunlight, previously thought to be essential to support living beings. But now, it's a far more exciting story. Deep in the pitch-black oceans of these two distant moons, could there be briny oases of life hidden beneath the ice? It's certainly possible. Either way, we'll have to wait at least until the year 2030 to find out, when NASA's dedicated Clipper spacecraft will finally arrive at Europa and begin its search for life. Of course, we're leaning towards speculation here. We simply don't know enough about brine pool environments to make concrete claims that life began under similar conditions, or that they can be found beneath the ice of Europa and Enceladus. What we do know is they completely changed our understanding of how life can exist. And on top of that, there's one thing we can say with no doubt at all. as we continue to unravel the mysteries of these surreal underwater environments, the potential for incredible discoveries only grows. After all, who knows what wealth of secrets might still be lurking below the surface, just waiting to be found. In 1931, the British fishing boat Calinda was dredging the bottom of the North Sea, 40 kilometers offshore. What they brought up with the catch would transform our view of the planet that we call home. A lump of freshwater peat with a 20-centimeter harpoon head stuck inside. Carved from the animal was far from stable. Objects dating from the Mesolithic period have been recovered from those dark depths, in fishing nets and by marine archaeologists searching the sea floor. Tools, weapons, and the remains of animals such as mammoths and even lions. How did all these things get there? Well, there's only one logical explanation for this: that part of the sea floor, now 40 meters below the surface, was once dry land, a place covered in vegetation, and people lived there. You've probably heard of Atlantis, the mythical ancient land that disappeared under the sea. Well, thanks to recent advances in mapping technology that can see deep under the oceans and even under the ocean floors, scientists really are discovering lost lands, and not just small islands like Atlantis. They have found whole continents that could be treasure troves of minerals and fuels to power our future. I'm James Stewart, and you're watching Astrum Earth. In this video, we'll explore continents you may never have heard of. Continents that have disappeared under the water, have been crushed into fragments, and have been dragged down under the Earth's crust. Lost continents that hold the keys to understanding this planet in which we live. The vanished land where that barbed spearhead was discovered has now been mapped and is called Doggerland after the Dutch boats that fished this part of the North Sea. But nearly a century after that discovery was made, we still know less about what lies beneath our oceans than we do about the surface of the moon. But geologists are beginning to understand how the continents that make up our planet are changing over time. We like to think of the land we stand on as something solid, something permanent, but that is actually not the case. On the other side of the world from where the Calinda was dredging the sea floor lies Zealandia, a continent twice the size of India, 94% of which is currently underwater. Only the islands of New Zealand, which are just the very highest parts of a vast mountain range, poke out above the surface. The rest of it has shrunk, a whole kilometre down beneath the waves. We still don't know how much of this lost continent was once dry land, and until very recently, we didn't even know that Zealandia existed at all. The search for a large continent hidden in these waters goes back a long time in history. In 1642, the Dutch explorer Abel Janszoon Tasman discovered New Zealand, previously unknown to Europeans. Even though Australia was already known, they believed that there must be another large continent on the opposite side of the world. A large land that would balance out the mass of Europe and keep the world stable. And it was this land that Tasman was sent to discover. What he found was the South Island of New Zealand, not the large continent that he had been looking for. Perhaps he was disappointed with his discovery, because he never set foot on this new land. He did, however, give his name to the Tasman Sea between New Zealand and Australia. It took 375 years until we came to understand that Abel Tasman had in fact discovered his large continent. So how was it possible for Zealandia to go unnoticed for so long? The answer is in fact simple. It is very difficult and very expensive to explore what lies at the bottom of our oceans. Oceans cover 71% of our planet, yet most of this enormous area remains unexplored. The outline of Zealandia only became visible once satellite technology allowed mapping of small variations in Earth's gravity. One other thing that may have hindered discovering lost continents is that until recently, we didn't have an agreed definition for what a continent actually is. It's an area or a kind of landmass, right? But that's pretty vague. So to classify as a continent, you firstly have to be a large continuous geological area with a high elevation. Secondly, you need a wide variety of rocks. And thirdly, you need a thick crust. This differentiates a continent of varied rocks that is 20 to 40 kilometers thick from more recently formed sea floor, which tends to be entirely igneous rock and much thinner, typically less than 10 kilometers thick. Analysis of satellite imagery and of rock samples from the ocean floor allowed GNS Science, a leading New Zealand research institute, to confirm in 2017 that Zealandia is a true continent separate from Australia. Very little is yet known about it, but that's not entirely surprising because it's a huge area to explore, almost the size of Australia and in very deep water. You may be familiar with the movement of the tectonic plates that make up Earth's continents, and how they've moved around the surface with time, how they are still moving. But the picture that is now emerging appears much more complex. As these continents slowly drift around, they are pulled apart, opening new oceans, and they're forced together, creating vast mountain ranges. Mountains such as the Alps and the Himalayas seem astonishingly high to us, but in reality, the surface of our planet is almost completely smooth, as it's constantly pulled into shape by the force of gravity. If smooth isn't the word that comes to mind when talking about our planet's surface, let me compare it to a football or a soccer ball. On that scale, our highest peak, Mount Everest, would be less than the size of a grain of sand. The oceans that cover most of the surface of our planet would be no thicker than a layer of plastic food wrap. It's all a matter of perspective. Admittedly though, things from our point of view are more dramatic. As the continents drift around the surface of our planet and are pushed into each other, this gravitational pull causes parts of the crust to sink, and in a seesaw effect, other parts rise. In addition to all this movement, climate change causes ice ages that last for tens of thousands of years, which means that vast quantities of the planet's water becomes locked in glacial ice. The warming of our planet then causes the ice to melt and flood into our oceans again. Following a warming period around 18,000 years ago, sea levels rose by 120 meters. All around the globe, huge areas of land have gradually disappeared under the sea. There is more to this story than just rising sea levels though. As our planet cools and warms, this affects the stability of the Earth's crust and the way it floats on the thick layer of magma that makes up most of our planet. If we go back to the North Sea, or rather the sea floor, where our story began, we
to docking facilities requires flight control authorization. Please submit a request before entering the docking bay. This is an important announcement. Security surveillance is in effect at this facility at all times. Acts of aggression will be met with an appropriate response. This is a flight regulation announcement. Please proceed to land on your assigned pad in a timely manner and refrain from obstructing other docking areas. We would like to welcome all commanders to this facility. Please ensure you complete all docking procedures within the allocated time. If you're unable to complete docking procedures within your time slot, you'll need to exit the bay and resubmit a docking request. This is a message to all commanders. Please reduce your speed while maneuvering your ship inside the docking bay. We would like to remind all commanders to avoid blocking access to docking pads during arrival and departure. Ensure you have received authorization before entering the docking bay. If you don't have access permission, please exit the facility immediately. Greetings to all visitors. Please align to your assigned pad, and thanks for choosing this facility. This facility offers a range of services. Check your information panel after docking for more details. Access to docking facilities requires flight control authorization. Please submit a request before entering the docking bay. This is a flight regulations requirement. Please do not obstruct the access corridor during arrival or departure. Thank you, and enjoy your stay. Services at this starport are constantly being updated. Remember to visit every time you pass through the system. We would like to welcome all commanders to this facility. Please ensure you complete all docking procedures within the allocated time. In order to keep bay traffic flowing smoothly, please follow standard operating procedures and request docking permission before entering the starport. We will be forced to respond to aggressive actions. For peace of mind, please stow ship weapons while inside the docking bay. We advise that all commanders be aware of their speed while in and around the starport. Thank you for your cooperation. This is an important announcement. Security surveillance is in effect at this facility at all times. Acts of aggression will be met with an appropriate response. We would like to remind all commanders to avoid blocking access to docking pads during arrival and departure. Access to docking facilities requires flight control authorization. Please submit a request before entering the docking bay. Greetings to all visitors. Please align to your assigned pad, and thanks for choosing this facility. This facility offers a range of services. Check your information panel after docking for more details. If you're unable to complete docking procedures within your time slot, you'll need to exit the bay and resubmit a docking request. This is a message to all commanders. Please reduce your speed while maneuvering your ship inside the docking bay. We advise that all commanders be aware of their speed while in and around the starport. Thank you for your cooperation. We would like to welcome all commanders to this facility. Please ensure you complete all docking procedures within the allocated time. We will be forced to respond to aggressive actions. For peace of mind, please stow ship weapons while inside the docking bay. In order to keep bay traffic flowing smoothly, please follow standard operating procedures and request docking permission before entering the starport. Unlawful behavior in and around the starport is not permitted. We thank commanders docking facilities requires flight control authorization. Please submit a request before entering the docking bay. Ensure you have received authorization before entering the docking bay. If you don't have access permission, please exit the facility immediately. This facility offers a range of services. Check your information panel after docking for more details. We would like to remind all commanders to avoid blocking access to docking pads during arrival and departure. This is a message to all commanders. Please reduce your speed while maneuvering your ships inside the docking bay. We would like to welcome all commanders to this facility. Please ensure you complete all docking procedures within the allocated time. This is a flight regulations reminder. Please do not obstruct the access corridor during arrival or departure. Thank you, and enjoy your stay. Greetings to all visitors. Please alight at your assigned pads, and thanks for choosing this facility. If you're unable to complete docking procedures within your time slot, you'll need to exit the bay and resubmit a docking request. This is a flight regulation announcement. Please proceed to land on your assigned pad in a timely manner and refrain from obstructing other docking areas. In order to keep bay traffic flowing smoothly, please follow standard operating procedures and request docking permission before entering the starport. Unlawful behavior in and around the starport is not permitted. We thank commanders for their cooperation. Ensure you have received authorization before entering the docking bay. If you don't have access permission, please exit the facility immediately. We advise that all commanders be aware of their speed while in and around the starport. Thank you for your cooperation. This is an important announcement. Security surveillance is in effect at this facility at all times. Acts of aggression will be met with an appropriate response. We would like to welcome all commanders to this facility. Please ensure you complete all docking procedures within the allocated time. This is a flight regulations reminder. Please do not obstruct the access corridor during arrival or departure. Thank you, and enjoy your stay. Access to docking facilities requires flight control authorization. Please submit a request before entering the docking bay. In order to keep bay traffic flowing smoothly, please follow standard operating procedures and request docking permission before entering the starport. Greetings to all visitors. Please alight at your assigned pad, and thanks for choosing this facility. Services at this starport are constantly being updated. Remember to visit every time you pass through the system. If you're unable to complete docking procedures within your time slot, you'll need to exit the bay and resubmit a docking request. Unlawful behavior in and around the starport is not permitted. We thank commanders for their cooperation. We will be forced to respond to aggressive action. For peace of mind, please stow ship weapons while inside the docking bay. We would like to remind all commanders to avoid blocking access to docking pads during arrival and departure. Access to docking facilities requires flight control authorization. Please submit a request before entering the docking bay. This is a flight regulation announcement.